How strong can a little girl be? On the full month celebration, this little girl named Gang was able to lift the table. When she went to kindergarten, just one jump made everyone look up, and even the Mongolian warriors were easily thrown aside by her. The girl's name is Gang Nam-soon. Her strength is inherited from her mother's blood. As for exactly how strong it is, no one knows. The women of this family are all violent and arrogant to the point of being scary. Nam-soon's mother's name is Hwang Jung-ju, and is also the one who proactively proposed to Mr. Gang. Jung-ju asked Mr. Gang if he could quit his job and stay home. She told him to just stay home and she would be responsible for going out to earn money to support the family. Jung-ju also promised to let Mr. Gang live extremely happy days and would not let him shed any tears. Very quickly, Mr. Gang fell in love with those sweet words of seduction. Jung-ju saw that the time had come and immediately offered to spend the night with Mr. Gang. Changed the scene to Mr. Gang lying on the bed embarrassed. Just when Jung-ju wanted to take another step forward, she suddenly felt it was too noisy outside, so she immediately lifted up the bed with one hand and turned it around. However, before Mr. Gang could react, Jung-ju felt that placing the bed here near the bathroom was not good, so she changed the position of the bed once again. At this time, Mr. Gang was so scared that his legs were weak. He just hated that he couldn't escape from here immediately. Jung-ju immediately went to explain that this was her family's hereditary. She said that she would just let her take care of everything tonight. After speaking, Mr. Gang was immediately thrown onto the bed, and very quickly the two gave birth to a son and a daughter. On the full month celebration, the daughter Nam-soon lifted the table for a moment and then threw it out. It was clear that she had inherited the characteristics of this family's women. However, it wasn't long before unfortunate things came. When Mr. Gang took Nam-soon to Mongolia to take photos, he lost her. Because he could not make up for the mistake he made, he had to divorce his wife. Over here, Jung-ju relied on her sharp sense of smell and unique mind in business, and she quickly entered the ranking of Korean tycoons. Jung-ju is currently running a pawn shop. That day, a guest brought the great sword that his ancestors used to fight Lee Sun-shin to exchange money, but there is no evidence or historical records, so it cannot be proven that this is a valuable antique. But Jung-ju was still kind enough to open the safe. As soon as this customer saw so much money, he immediately became greedy. The subordinate understood and immediately used a knife to threaten Jung-ju. He said Jung-ju was stupid to believe him. This sentence reached her limit, so she lightly stepped on the subordinate's foot, causing his foot to be buried in the ground. Jung-ju continuously cursed him for being a good-for-nothing scoundrel. The more she spoke, the angrier she became. In order to teach this man a lesson, Jung-ju snapped her fingers, only to see this man's face shocked by the huge impact. Even lost 2 front teeth. But it doesn't stop there. Jung-ju also flit this man's forehead, causing him to immediately faint on the spot. Actually, Jung-ju never gave up searching for her daughter. That day, subordinate Nam-gil immediately proposed to organize a contest to find the strongest person for girls around 12 years old around the world, with a reward of up to 100 million won. Such a hot topic can certainly attract many girls to register to participate, so it's not difficult to find Nam-soon. Jung-ju felt this was a good idea, so of course she agreed to his suggestion. At the same time, Mongolia is holding the finals of the annual wrestling competition for heroes. The contest involves defending champion Bata, who is known as the Monster, and a weak girl, only 12 years old. However, the competition also took place extremely gently. The girl used one hand to lift Bata up and then threw him 10 meters away. Bata was still not accept yet, so he was grabbed by the girl's leg and thrown out of the final round. And this girl is the strong girl, Gang Nam-soon. After winning the championship, Nam-soon was curious why she had such terrible power. Her adoptive parents did not hide it from her and told her that 7 years ago, the two of them discovered Nam-soon on the prairie. Due to the language difference, the little girl kept calling her father, but her adoptive parents misunderstood that it was the name of the horse she was riding. Therefore, they immediately thought that it was a blessing from heaven, so they brought both Nam-soon and the horse back to raise. Her adoptive mother gave her the clothes she wore that year. Nam-soon discovered that the clothes said made in Korea, so from then on, she was passionate about Korean performances. She was determined to marry a Korean man and protect him. Since then, Nam-soon started learning Korean by herself. In the blink of an eye, 10 years have passed. Nam-soon has become a young woman. The adoptive father encouraged his daughter to return to Korea soon. Not only was she able to find her roots, but she was also able to marry a Korean man. At the same time, the competition to select strong girls was held in its 10th season. This year, there was a girl who not only won the championship, but also had a very similar appearance to Jung-ju. This constantly made her a little excited and mistakenly thought she had found her daughter. But as soon as Mr. Gang looked, he realized that this girl was not his daughter. In fact, the referee and judge colluded with the girl to trick Jung-ju together. Not sure if it was because of excitement or because she felt sorry for her daughter, Jung-ju took the girl to a private room to have a meal and asked her about her blood type and background. As expected, the girl answered correctly, so Jungju immediately told the secretary to call everyone in the family. In reality, because the news that every year a contest is held to find Nam Soon has spread around the world, plus DNA testing is useless due to family genetic variations, every year there are impersonators. At this time, Jungju took the winning girl home. As soon as entered the house, the girl immediately excitedly went straight into the house. When there was no one around, the girl immediately took off her disguise. On this side, the mother advised the daughter Jungju to investigate clearly because the characteristics of her niece Nam Soon and the details of the Jungju's daughter disappearance had been published in the newspaper for 10 years. So anyone can make up a story about Nam Soon, but Jungju believes that this girl is her daughter. At this moment, Mr. Gang immediately opened his mouth to speak. When his 4-year-old daughter jumped from the roof, a tree branch stabbed her leg and left a scar. Hearing and seeing these words, Gumju and Mr. Gang immediately talked to the old story. Gumju thinks that her husband doesn't have to do anything but can't even look after the child, while Mr. Gang feels that his daughter needs her mother's companionship. The two argued for a while and then talked about Nam and son. In short, Gamju was sure that this girl was the missing daughter Nam Soon. That night, Jungju went to the girl's room and discovered a scar on the sole of her foot. This made Jungju even more certain that the girl was her child. Early the next morning, she held a big party to welcome her daughter home. Jungju saw the girl and her son eating deliciously and couldn't help but be immersed in happiness. On this side, Nam Soon's adoptive parents sold the entire herd of sheep to have money for her to return to Korea. The horse that grew up next to her seemed to know that his owner was about to leave, so this tried his last breath to send her back to Korea. Nam Soon's tears kept falling onto the horse. She removed the bell from the horse's neck, then used force to throw it through the clouds, accidentally hitting the head of Korean police officer Hee-sik, who was far away. He picked up the bell, but no matter how much he couldn't figure out who threw it. At the same time, Gumju takes this girl shopping to make up for all the hardships her daughter has endured over the years, and the girl is also immersed in these days of wasteful spending. Gumju returned to the pawn shop and was stopped by a panicked woman. This month, she pawned all the valuables in the house and now wanted to use her only livelihood to borrow 10 million won. Jungju didn't ask much but told her subordinate to give the money for this woman, but in reality, Jungju saw through everything. That night, Jungju wore a black bodysuit and rode her motorbike out. At the same time, the woman who borrowed money in the morning had dull eyes and trembling hands on the steering wheel as if waiting for something. Not long after, another car drove by, and the woman immediately gave the other person money. After receiving the money, the other party immediately gave the goods to her. This scene was seen by Hee-sik, who was on duty, so he immediately followed. He originally wanted to catch the drug traffickers, but because the woman had overdosed on drugs, the car she was driving suddenly swerved on the road. So Hee-sik softened and decided to protect the woman first. Just when he thought he couldn't arrest the other two guys, Gumju quickly caught up with the drug traffickers. They arrogantly challenged Jungju. Next, they drove into the tunnel, and Gumju was just waiting for this opportunity. Just one kick of her foot sent them flying away. When Hee-sik rushed to the place, he saw this scene. After catching the drug dealers, Hee-sik also returned to the police station. Suddenly, colleagues received news that a drug trafficker had caught a flight from Mongolia at 11 p.m. Therefore, the anti-drug team immediately launched the campaign. Coincidentally, Nam Soon was also on this flight, but when the anti-drug team arrived at Incheon Airport, there was a problem with the plane. Because the plane's spoiler was damaged, it could not slow down. The intense shaking woke up Nam Soon. While the captain was trying to land and taxi, the sudden collision caused the cabin to lose pressure, causing passengers to immediately panic in fear. However, the sliding speed did not decrease but increased. At the moment of danger, Nam Soon immediately walked to the cabin door, kicked it open, and jumped down. The women in their family not only have tremendous strength, but also extremely fast speed that makes people amazed. She used all her strength to hold back the plane. At this moment, the blood that had been sleeping in her body for 22 years was officially awakened. At the same time, Gumju's mother also felt the love of consanguinity, but the girl behind Jungju is not there. On this side, the grandmother suddenly woke up and also felt that mysterious source of power. Nam Soon relied on her divine power to pull the plane to a stop, but what she did was noticed by another man. As for Nam Soon, she was so excited that she gently patted Gangnam Avenue, leaving her fingerprints on it. A few hours earlier, she had not only awakened the inherent power of her clan within her, but also stopped the out-of-control plane by hand. At the same time, her mother and grandmother also felt it. It turns out that as long as someone uses great power, the women of the family will feel it. it, but the daughter Hwaja didn't have it. So the mother Gumju immediately told the secretary to follow her, because Jungju suspected that this girl was not the daughter Namsoon. On this side, all passengers must receive investigation by the anti-drug team. The belongings that Namsoon brought with her were truly extremely strange. It includes a handbook of male idols, a bunch of horse manes, and also a pair of horse bones. Hee-sik, in charge of the investigation, saw this and immediately felt strange. He didn't understand why she brought these things here, so he confiscated it all. While talking, he took out a magic stick. Namsoon immediately said that this stick was extremely important, then she held it tightly in her hand. Namsoon tells Hee-sik that she must rely on this stick to find her mother, and that sincere feeling touched Hee-sik deeply. He introduced himself as a police officer and said he would help her find her mother. Therefore, the two people came to an agreement and exchanged promises. Scene change. Namsoon used all the money she had saved to rent a room with a river view in the Gangnam area. The manager also thoughtfully reminded her of things to pay attention to. This makes Namsoon feel that Korean people are very friendly, especially the police officer just now, so she really wanted to protect him. After finding a place in Namsoon, she shouted out her thoughts to the Han River. No matter what, she had to find her mother. Her voice was like a direct wave dispelling the clouds. The next day, the National Scientific Research Institute had test results. That bunch of horse's mane was indeed a horse's mane, and that magic stick is made of solid gold, with an extremely valuable diamond attached to it. It was at this time that colleague investigated the identity of the girl riding the motorbike last night. She is a troubleshooting expert in the Gangnam area and is on the list of female tycoons. After seeing documents about Jeongju, he discovered that this person was always looking for her missing daughter. Therefore, he suddenly remembered Namsoon's story. On this side, Gumju tries to contact the woman who pawned, but was unable to contact her. So Jungju immediately had a bad feeling and immediately drove to this person's house. On the way, she left a message that if he went to the police station tomorrow and confessed everything, nothing would happen. However, the pawnbroker became addicted and became drowsy. When Gumju arrived at the woman's house, she fell from upstairs due to a strong hallucination. The police should have immediately arrested her. Then, that woman would most likely still be alive. But the head of the anti-drug team wanted to catch the big fish, so he let her be the bait. After returning to the company, Gumju was extremely angry. First, Jungju told the subordinate to return all the belongings the woman gave her in exchange for money for her family. After that, Jungju immediately criticized the Korean regime. Every year she paid 40 million won in taxes, yet she doesn't know if that money is being used properly. After listening, the subordinate did not understand and immediately asked if it was just because of these things. In reality, Gumju did what she did for her daughter. She believed that as long as she did good things, a god would protect Namsoon. By now, this concept has become a long-term mission, so Gumju decided to personally stop those who specialize in harming the country. At the same time, Namsoon just woke up and a broker brought a customer. It turned out that she had encountered scammers. To prevent her from reporting to the police, they also took her passport and phone. But this type of scam is almost impossible for Korea to catch, so Namsoon had to find another place to live. She carried her luggage to Han River Park. Seeing a tourist tent, she immediately mistook it for a Mongolian tent. Therefore, she immediately came up with an extremely bold idea. Finally, the accommodation was completed. Because of causing damage, Namsoon was taken to the police station. After explaining everything clearly, the female police officer immediately promised that if there was any progress, she would contact Namsoon again. But Namsoon didn't have a phone, so she suddenly thought she could contact the policeman who took her things away. The female police officer immediately asked her about the police officer's name. Namsoon said the name Hee-sik but did not pronounce it correctly. The female police officer suspected that she heard wrongly. How could it have such a strange name? At this time, Namsoon immediately added that this person is extremely handsome and is also the type she likes. However, when Namsoon finished declaring and returned to his Mongolian tent, he discovered that a beggar couple was occupying the place. Then they asserted that the park is state land, so whoever comes first gets it. This caused Namsoon's feelings about Korean people's enthusiasm to immediately drop. After talking for a while, Namsoon decided to help the two beggars set up a Mongolian tent next door. So the two of them immediately knelt down and insisted on giving her something to repay her. Then this man bluntly declared that he would be her younger brother. At this time, Hee-sik could not contact Namsoon. Right when he got off work, the policewoman called him back and asked him if he knew a girl named Gang Namsoon. At the same time, the female police officer told him the whole story about Namsoon being tricked. Because Namsoon described Hee-sik as extremely handsome, the female police officer immediately thought of him. Hearing that Hee-sik was also very happy, over here Dr. Choi has prepared a type that resembles toilet paper in a solid state but will decompose into powder if dissolved in water. Because the decay rate rate is so fast even urine tests cannot detect it. How to use is to insert a little into the ear. At the same time, Nam-soon had just helped the beggar couple set up their tent when a group of people claiming to be environmentalists surrounded them. They criticized Nam-soon and the couple for destroying the natural landscape and disturbing the Han River environment. They also ordered its immediate removal. The beggar couple had a hard time getting a house, so they couldn't give it up easily. Therefore, two people held hands to form a wall to prevent the environmental defenders from demolishing their house. However, the strength of the two of them was indeed so weak that they were not only separated but also kicked to the ground. The beggar man quickly hugged the leader's leg tightly, begging to have mercy on them this time, and the woman is fighting with another person because to protect their home, two people are willing to endure humiliation. Nam-soon next to really couldn't bear it anymore. Fortunately, at this time, the police arrived at the scene and took the rioting crowd to the station. However, the environmentalists not only blamed the beggar couple but also complained about the police's failure to protect the Han River. They demanded that Nam-soon's group be thrown into prison, which made Nam-soon extremely unhappy. She herself just came to find her mother, so why did she have to encounter so many problems? It took 10 years of planning before she could set foot in Korea. While raising sheep and saving money, she has to spend 5 hours learning Korean every day. Every night, she dreams of being reunited with her mother. It was at this moment that handsome police officer Hee-sik appeared in front of Nam-soon. He asked her if she had eaten. Then, Hee-sik immediately returned the things he had confiscated to Nam-soon. In fact, this is also considered a blessing in disaster. If they weren't suspected and then confiscated, it's possible that those items would also be taken away by fraud. So this is also considered the last good thing for Nam-soon. So she immediately told Hee-sik the story of her getting lost. He didn't hide it from Nam-soon, but immediately told her that this magic stick was real gold. On this side, the fake daughter Hwaja is planning to steal treasure from Gumju's bedroom with her accomplices. Her accomplices felt that continuing to be the tycoon's daughter wouldn't be good. However, Hwaja thought that the real girl would most likely come to her, but they did not know that the content of this conversation had been overheard by the secretary. At the same time, Hee-sik also took Nam-soon back to the Mongolian tent. On the way, he told her to quickly get a passport, then he gave her the business card of a photography studio. At this time, Nam-soon immediately asked where Hee-sik's house was. He thought that if she got lost, she would know where to find him, so he pointed to the apartment opposite. After returning home, Hee-sik immediately asked his colleagues to investigate the case of missing children from 15 years ago until now, after which he followed his habit of dancing on the balcony in his underwear. He danced passionately without knowing that, from the Han River Park, Nam-soon could see his dancing appearance. She felt extremely happy. Early the next morning, the secretary immediately reported to Gumju that Hwaja was not her real daughter, but Gumju didn't say anything and told the secretary to quietly observe to see if there was anything unusual about this fake daughter. Right when Gumju was about to leave, Hwaja immediately suggested inviting her friends to come over to the house, the main purpose being for her accomplices to steal things. Gumju thought for a bit and still agreed with her. On this side, Hee-sik gave his personal phone to Nam-soon to use. He also urged her to quickly get a passport. At this time, Nam-soon also told the story that she saw him dancing on the balcony last night, and he was also wearing noctilucent underwear. Hee-sik was surprised and thought, how could she see him last night? At the same time, Gumju attends a party organized by a club exclusively for the upper class. The members here are all the richest people in Korea. Her purpose is to use her abilities to create a new world suitable for human survival. But the members all despise Gumju. On the contrary, she was noticed by a strange man who said she was in the wrong place. If you want to change the world, come here. This is the place where only special people can enter. Elsewhere, following the address on the business card, Nam-soon arrives in front of her father's photography studio. The father just looked and recognized his daughter because her eyes sparkled like his ex-wife. In addition, she is the person he has missed for many years. At the same time, the man who was eyeing Nam-soon at the airport picked up a new product tested by Dr. Choi to try. It seems that he also has unknown superpowers. At this time, Nam-soon was preparing to take a passport photo when she received a call from Hee-sik saying that the criminal who scammed her had been arrested, so she no longer needed to take a passport photo. After saying goodbye to Mr. Gang, Nam-soon immediately turned around and ran. Only then did Mr. Gang calm down and run like crazy to find his daughter. However, Nam-soon has disappeared from there. Scene change. Nam-soon has arrived at the police station. Even though she got the stolen items, her money was spent by the scammer. At this time, the woman who appeared behind her wanted to sue Nam-soon. It turned out that the man who had been thrown far away in the park had broken his coccyx, so the wife immediately brought the diagnosis paper and asked Nam-soon to compensate. But police officer Hee-sik did not believe that a weak girl could beat a big man like that. Unexpectedly, Nam-soon would honestly admit her mistake. She also wanted to learn many experiences in Korea, so she volunteered to be sued. But before that, Nam-soon hoped the woman could understand that it was her husband who hit Nam-soon's friend first. Nam-soon just stood there and watched without doing anything. The two-beggar couple could have been injured. Nam-soon confirmed she only used one finger. She was afraid that if she pushed him with both hands he would probably die. After speaking, she stood up and left. Looking at this stubborn girl makes Hee-sik helpless. After seeing Nam-soon off, Hee-sik discovered that his colleagues were all attracted to the video of this girl uprooting trees in the park. Everyone can't believe this is true. In other words, Hee-sik's luminous underwear was definitely seen by Nam-soon. On this side, the party organizer introduced director Co and Gyeomju to the sponsor. The two people can be said to have just met but was very close, but Gyeomju didn't know that Co was the villain in this movie. At the same time, the fake daughter Hwaja instructs the secretary to entertain her friends. According to the plan, the purpose of this group of people was to steal valuable items from the house. However, Hwaja changed her goal. She wants to continue to stay as Gyeomju's daughter, but her friends feel that if she keeps pretending, she won't last long, and one day her identity will be revealed. In fact, Hwaja also saw Nam-soon's video of uprooting a willow tree on the street, so she immediately assumed that the girl was definitely Gyeomju's daughter. In addition, this person is a foreigner. Even if she kills this girl, the police cannot do anything. Therefore, as long as she silently eliminates real daughter, the mother will definitely pamper the fake daughter was her. That afternoon, grandmother had just arrived at the underground parking lot when an old man accused her of flipping over his luxury car. So then the two people were taken to the police station. From the surveillance camera, it can be seen that the grandmother used just one hand to overturn the man's car. The police there suddenly thought that her grandmother was Queen Gil Jong-gan of Machon-dong district. Legend has it that in 1983, evil forces illegally controlled the small market and bullied the people here. It was at this moment that a thin woman named Gil Jung-gan walked into the crowd. That was the third day after Jung-gan gave birth. Jung-gan suggested that for the sake of customers, the market could not see blood. If they have enough courage, duel with her. A man standing in the middle of a group of gangsters immediately gave her a slap, causing her to fall to the ground. This makes everyone there look down on her. However, with just one slap from her, that guy flew far away. From then on, peace came to Machon-dong district, but the man didn't believe it and insisted on making her compensate. This man immediately fainted on the spot. Until the police finished handling this case, the man was still unconscious. When the grandmother left the police station, she suddenly heard that Do Bong-soon was arrested for teaching the group dog thieves. At this time, Miss Min-yuk's husband also came to sponsor her. He immediately said that no matter what lawsuit the dog thieves had, he still absolutely believed his wife, and he would let the legal team handle it. It turns out that grandmother and Bong-soon are distant relatives. On Nam-soon's side, she just glared at a vicious dog that was so scared that it trembled. Even though she was alone and surrounded by 20 men, they were all beaten up by her. It turned out that because she wanted to make money, Nam-soon worked as a mass actor, but after a day of work, she discovered that actors get to eat a lot of delicious food. As for the rice in her hand, it was only a little. Even Nam-soon soon disliked the studio secretary. Even if they don't do anything, they still have food, and the food is extremely rich. Then there's the director who just sits around screaming at them all day. She then yelled at them to get out of the way so she could push the food cart to the mass actors. This way, not only did she get a full meal, but even the famous stars were more respectful towards her. However, Hwaja also gathered more than 20 large proud men and headed straight to Nam-soon's Mongolian tent. On this side, the police discovered that the woman on the previous flight had died. Through forensic examination, the victim's body contained components of a new type of drug. The details still need to be analyzed, but this is definitely scary stuff. Very quickly, Hee-sik went to the victim's house to conduct an investigation, but other than the vomit on the ground, no useful clues were discovered. He guessed that the new drug the woman brought must have surpassed their imagination. It was when Hee-sik was about to leave that he noticed the mask in the victim's pocket. On this side, Gyeomju opened the business card that the strange man gave her to see. When she logged into the website, she discovered that this was also an anti-drug organization, so she decided to contribute a little, so she donated 1 billion won to it. At the same time, the secretary reported to Gyeomju that she had sent someone to follow Hwaja. It turns out that Gyeomju was in no hurry to expose the fake daughter because she was afraid that her harsh criticism of the fake daughter would reach the ears of the real missing daughter. At the same time, Hee-sik received a phone call from his colleagues informing him that they had investigated 23 police reports about the disappearance in Mongolia, but there are only 4 cases of missing children, including Nam-soon's information. That That afternoon, Nam-soon immediately told the beggar couple about being an extra. After hearing this, they were also touched by her appearance of trying her best. Therefore, they immediately decided to look for work to make money. Suddenly, Nam-soon uses her magical eyes to look towards the park and discovers a group of people smashing her house and a couple of beggars. Then her eyes immediately turned red. On this side, from policewoman Hee-sik found out the phone number of Jung-ju, Nam-soon's mother. At this time, the police station received a report that someone was using force to destroy the Mongol tent of Nam-soon. After listening, Hee-sik didn't think much and immediately rushed out. At this time, Nam-soon was running at a speed of 320 kilometers per hour to residence and told the evil people to stop. Hwa-ja now looks pleased. The big man took the lead and walked up to Nam-soon arrogantly and said what could she do to him. When Hee-sik arrived at the scene, he saw Nam-soon flying 3 stories high and grabbing the big man and pressing him to the ground. Then she immediately threw the last man away. So this struggle scene was considered over, and Hwa-ja was so scared that she quickly put on a mask and fled the scene. The most pitiful thing is the beggar couple. It was not easy for them to have a roof, but now it has been destroyed. Nam-soon immediately promised to help them build another house, but the two felt that having a roof was an extremely luxury. No matter where they live, they will absolutely not forget her kindness. Therefore, the 3 people immediately parted ways from here. Seeing this, Hee-sik immediately suggested letting Nam-soon stay at his house. As soon as arrived at his house, Nam-soon took a shower herself. Then she told Hee-sik to get her a change of clothes. So Hee-sik just hung his shirt on the bathroom door. At this time, the female police officer called to inform that she had found the person behind the instructions for them to destroy that Mongolia tent. That person is Gyeongju's fake daughter, Hwa-ja. After learning the situation, Hee-sik immediately contacted Gyeongju to provide important information about her real daughter. However, the sound of the bathroom door behind him suddenly rang. Then, Hee-sik was immediately attracted to Nam-soon, who had just finished showering. Jung-ju on the other end of the line kept asking where her real daughter was, and Hee-sik said he would contact her later. Then he told Nam-soon that he seemed to have found her mother. So can mother and daughter meet each other smoothly? Strong girl gang Nam-soon has finally reunited with her mother. It turns out that after Hee-sik hung up the phone, Gyeongju immediately asked her subordinate to investigate where Hee-sik was working. As for Hwa-ja, after the plan failed, she was extremely scared, but in her heart she still did not accept it. That night, after receiving news about her daughter, Gyeongju was extremely nervous and worried. At this time, her subordinate investigated and discovered that Hee-sik was currently working in the Drug Prevention Task Force of the Seoul Police Department. But because this is a secret investigation team, they only know that the headquarters is at Ganghan Police Station. Not long after, Hee-sik called back Jung-ju because Nam-soon's mood is quite unstable today, so she needs to be okay first. So the two of them agreed to meet each other tomorrow. After hanging up the phone, the stone that had weighed heavily on Gyeongju's heart for 20 years finally fell. She immediately informed her ex-husband that she had found her daughter, Nam-soon. After hearing this news, Mr. Gang immediately couldn't bear it anymore because this was the person he had always wanted for the past 20 years. Now, he can also let go of the guilt in his heart. The next day after seeing Nam-soon off, Hee-sik washed his face and suddenly received a phone call from his colleague. At this time, he accidentally touched the evidence mask he had brought back and he got a little drug on his hand. At this time, Hee-sik also discovered that masks were the drug he needed to find. At the same time, a woman became confused due to using that drug, then set fire to the entire building. When Nam-soon was about to go to the restaurant they had arranged before, she suddenly heard a cry for help. Through her magical eyes, she saw in a building not far away 2 children trapped in flames. Over there is the baby waiting to be rescued, and here is the opportunity to reunite with her mother. Nam-soon didn't think too much and immediately ran there. At the same time, on the way to the meeting point, Jung-ju was stuck in traffic. Seeing that there were less than 5 minutes left until the appointment time, she suddenly heard the sound of a fire truck behind her. It turned out that the building in front was on fire. Jung-ju didn't think much but immediately got out of the car, smiled, and gently pushed the car in front of her. Jung-ju uses the family's power to open a rescue route for the fire truck. Nam-soon on this side was also not free. As soon as she arrived under the building, the 3rd floor exploded. If don't respond quickly, people's life could be in danger at any time. Nam-soon used her strength to jump up and fly into the building through the window, then followed the screams and successfully saved the 2 children trapped inside. But because the fire was so big, the exit route was was completely blocked. She tried to use her foot to break the glass window, then jumped down with her 2 children and landed safely on the ground. However, in the building once again had the children's cries for help rocked, so Nam soon flew up and entered through the window and also used the previous method to save 2 more children, but she was still worried that someone was still trapped inside, so she went back inside again. After several rescues like that, Nam soon's physical strength had almost reached its limit. It was when she flew into the building for the 5th time that Gumju just walked over. Nam soon tightened her 4 fingers to hold on to the billboard and then used force to pull herself into the building. Gumju was worried that her daughter would be in danger, so she lifted the fence of a roadside store to make a ladder. At the same time, after confirming that each room was empty, she was about to leave when Gumju climbed up. Suddenly the back exploded, causing Nam soon to fly out. Jumju did not hesitate at all and immediately jumped to hug her daughter tightly. Relying on Jumju's strength, they landed safely. Finally, the strong mother and daughter gang Nam soon met again. Fortunately, with the help of Nam soon and her mother, no one was injured in this fire. After getting in the car, Gumju wiped the sweat from Nam soon's face and sadly held her hand. Gumju's impression of her daughter still stops at 5 years old. However, Nam soon has forgotten the memory of her mother, but she can feel that Gumju is her mother. Hearing these words, Gumju felt extremely guilty and speechless. On the contrary, Nam soon comforted her mother, saying that she was very resilient and lived a good life. Gumju still blames herself for not taking good care of her daughter. Nam soon said she was grown up. Her teeth were all grown and her legs were big too. Gumju wonders why Nam soon's Korean is so good. She also did not hide it and said that her adoptive parents spent money for her to study. Jungju is a grateful person and will definitely repay it, so she wants to thank those who have helped her daughter. So she built a building in the middle of the vast steppe for Nam soon's adoptive parents in Mongolia. In addition, Gumju also wants Nam soon to learn how to do business from her. On this side, when the beggar couple was sad and didn't know what to eat, Jungju immediately drove a 5 long car to find them. First, she said she was Nam soon's mother, then signaled her subordinate to give them 2 suitcases. Inside was 200 million won in cash. This money is given to them to use in advance to buy some clothes that suit them and eat delicious food. At the same time, arrange a driver to take them to her hotel. After speaking, she even told the 2 people to contact her. The beggar couple couldn't believe it was all true. They weren't even hungry, so they decided to hide the money first. At the same time, Nam soon returned to the villa. Needless to say, the grandmother was extremely happy and pulled her granddaughter's hand and said loving words. The grandmother also told the secretary to help her buy some new clothes. Not long after, Mr. Gang also ran into the house with tears in his eyes. Nam soon suddenly turned back as if she had telepathy with him. The father just looked and recognized his daughter. The father and son hugged each other and cried in happiness. Nam soon immediately said sorry to her father. She shouldn't have let go of his hand at first. However, Mr. Gang said it was all his fault. At this time, her twin brother also ran into the house and burst into tears. He missed his sister very much. Every day he prayed for her. Nam In said that when he saw Hwaja, he didn't have this feeling, and Hwaja is currently hiding in a restaurant and becoming a fraudster with a reward of up to 5 million won. That night, Gumju went to Nam soon's room. The 2 of them are extremely happy right now. When Gumju glimpsed the scar on Nam soon's leg, she felt extremely guilty. Although her strength is extremely great, she is unable to protect her daughter. But Nam soon believes that fortunately she inherited the strength of her family, so she can resiliently live until now. It turns out that the family's ancestors taught that strength can only be used to do good things. If you abuse or do bad things, your ability will disappear. After Gumju left, Nam soon called her adoptive parents and told them she had found her biological parents. Nam soon knew that even though her adoptive mother was strict, the mother was also extremely gentle. Her adoptive father looked like he was just a rude man, but inside he was extremely weak. Therefore, she told her adoptive parents not to worry about her because she lived very well. And Nam soon also said that she missed the 2 of them very much. Nam soon held back tears and told her adoptive parents that she had something to do here, so she can't go back for now. After hanging up the phone, she couldn't control her emotions and covered her eyes with her hands. The next day, Nam soon brought the magic staff and the clothes she wore when she got lost and placed them on the table. Jimju and Mr. Gang just looked and realized that this was the item they bought when their daughter was 5 years old. While talking, dinner was also brought. These are all dishes that Nam soon liked to eat when she was a child. The family of four gathered together in happiness, making people admire them. Scene changes to Jung-ju controlling her divine power through playing golf. But with every stroke she made, her subordinates felt the wind blowing straight into their faces. Grandma was not free at home. She used her hands to break beef bones to make soup. This is also one of the family's secrets to getting rich. Suddenly, the website that Gumju donated money to sent a response, the main content being that drugs were hidden in Seo. Gumju immediately recognized Seo as the guy she had met before. So Seo named the first company to use cryptocurrency after himself and issued Seo Coin. Seo Coin is about to officially start trading. To expand its influence, Seo will build Asia's largest logistics center next year. It will therefore be necessary to recruit more than 3,000 employees to scale the company's workforce and dominate the industry with an overwhelming advantage. Of course, they will not only recruit men, but will also recruit female employees. On the other hand, the newspaper office is asking Jungju's opinion whether she wants to publish the news that she has found her daughter or not. Jungju thinks that the story of Namsoon saving people in a fire so quickly will cause a stir, so they need to remove all videos on social networks and media websites. She did not want her daughter to be under any pressure, so she suggested changing the direction of the article. The article about the death of a woman who died from inhaling a drug can be used to get information about drugs in Gangnam district. At the same time, Hwaja sold all the items Gumju gave her to create a different identity from her accomplices, and that is the identity of the girl who died 3 years ago. Moreover, if she wants to live, she must find a job to make money. Just in time, Hwaja saw CO company recruiting delivery staff. It turns out that CO did this on the surface to enhance the company's image, but in fact, he saw Namsoon stop the plane with his own eyes, so he wanted to confirm whether it was true or not. On this side, Namsoon and the previous couple gathered together. She was curious why the two became beggars and what they used the money her mother gave them for. Ji Hyun-soo immediately said that because virtual currency is spreading on the streets, of course, they have to rely on that virtual currency to get back on their feet. Suddenly he suggested that he should go to work first and said that the assistant director had called him earlier, but when they got there, they learned that Ji Hyun-soo only played a supporting role, and the movie was a mixed historical drama. After hearing this, Namsoon felt bad, so she criticized that the screenwriter could still get paid like that. At this time, the male lead began to show dissatisfaction with Hyun-soo's arbitrary screaming. As soon as Namsoon heard that she said Hyun-soo's acting was 10,000 times better than the male lead's and also modeled it for him, everyone present here saw Namsoon's strengths. Even the director did not dare to question it. Finally, under her fierce request, the male lead changed to another people. That night, as soon as Hee-sik arrived home, the doorbell rang. It was Gumju coming to help her daughter get luggage back. After the two entered Hee-sik house, Gumju determined to express her gratitude to him. She asked him if he wanted anything. Hee-sik is an upright police officer, so he said that he really wanted to catch the leader of the drug trafficking ring. This makes Gumju even more impressed with him. Then she immediately took out a wad of cash, and no matter what he said, she still stuffed that money into his hand. Just when Gumju pulled Hee-sik closer, Hee-sik's mother came to visit her son. From the two people's intimate actions and the luggage left on the ground, the mother immediately misunderstood that Gumju and her son had an ambiguous relationship, so the mother immediately raised her hand to hit him, but Gumju didn't explain much, just left a sentence saying, "I'll see you again," and then left. Hee-sik's mother opened the envelope and saw that it contained 200 million won. The mother was extremely confused when she saw such a large amount of money. That evening, Gumju immediately received an answer from the other website. It is 100% certain that there are traces of drugs in Seo. Gumju suddenly thought of Hee-sik's ambition, so she immediately told him this news. The grandmother here originally intended for her granddaughter to try stewed beef bone soup, but was captivated by the staff in her store with his skillful movements. His focused eyes and neat black hair attracted the grandmother's attention. The grandmother immediately gave this beef bone soup to him. After the two of them sat down to talk, then they knew that the other one, our widow, and the widower, were clearly a match made in heaven. But after learning that this man's wife passed away 5 years ago, the grandmother felt extremely happy. On this side, Hee-sik received news that the bald drug dealer he had previously caught just because of a mask had died in prison. Plus knew last night from Gumju that he decided to go to Seo to work as a spy, because on the website this company is selling masks. At the same time, to make her mother happy, Namsoon changed her appearance. Jimju wants Namsoon to go to school so she can inherit everything from the family, but Namsoon falls asleep every time she sees books. Jimju said that she looked exactly like her mother. She didn't understand why everyone had to take sleeping pills, but she just opened a book and immediately fell asleep. Actually, Namsoon's original purpose in coming to Korea was to find relatives, but now now after meeting her parents, she doesn't know what to do anymore. Gumju told her to do what makes her happy. Suddenly, Hee-sik called and asked her to go out for lunch at a restaurant. Through the conversation, Gumju also guessed that Namsoon likes Hee-sik. After that, Namsoon's new image also attracted Hee-sik's eyes. Next, he immediately told Namsoon that he had to work as a spy. Namsoon says she also wants to go with him. At first, Hee-sik felt it was too dangerous, so he refused, but after Namsoon bent the fork in front of him, he immediately changed his mind. At this time learned that Seo also recruited female delivery staff, but Hee-sik was a little curious as to why Namsoon wanted to follow him. It turns out that Hee-sik means grace in Mongolian, and she feels that being with him can make her a more honest person. That afternoon, two people passed the interview round at Seo Logistics Company. The main job content was to load 400 barrels of mineral water onto the truck. The manager there said that working with women is very difficult. All goods and supplies must be transported by men. Upon hearing that, Namsoon did not agree, but immediately called him over and gently lifted 4 barrels of mineral water in front of him. Then she ordered the pallet containing the goods to be brought here. A pallet is 50 pounds. The manager alone bring is extremely hard, but Namsoon not only lifted the entire pallet alone, but also loaded 16 barrels of water on top. So the noise of them attracted Hwaja's attention. She hid directly behind the container, afraid that Namsoon would discover her. Not long after the barrels of water was all finished, Hee-sik didn't understand why Namsoon didn't hide her strength. Wasn't she afraid of causing trouble? But Namsoon said she wasn't afraid. Anyway, she proposed that she would do the heavy work, and Hee-sik would be in charge of things like investigation. While the two were talking, Namsoon's magical eyes immediately saw the woman who tricked her in front. So, she immediately told Hee-sik to go there quickly. She then stopped the scammer and told the woman to pay her back. But unexpectedly, not only was the scammer not afraid, but she also whispered in Namsoon's ear that because she always scammed foreigners, the Korean police investigation was just a show. She herself was convicted and then released, which made Namsoon mad. Namsoon immediately grabbed this person's branded handbag and threw it away with force. The bag fell in front of a neighbor in Mongolia. From then on, Namsoon hated the scammers very much. She hates Korean capitalism, so she is determined to handle this matter with her own strength. That night, the two of them sneaked into Seo's warehouse, not knowing what had happened, but only saw Namsoon carrying Hee-sik and gently running inside. Every step made her hair flutter in the wind. No one knows what the girl is thinking, and the man definitely just wants to dig a hole to crawl into. It was at that moment when two people secretly broke into Namsoon Company's warehouse. They gently lifted up the half-ton rolling door and pulled the rolling door closed. At the same time, colleagues outside cut off the power. The two of them only had 5 minutes to collect suspicious things. Namsoon's eyesight is not only extremely good, but also has the ability to see at night. So after a while, she saw the box of masks placed in the corner. Before Hee-sik could react, she kicked her feet and flew up more than 9 meters high to take down the box of masks. Suddenly the heavy object next to fell, and Namsoon jumped up and flew to Hee-sik's side, using her hand to block the box. Her lovely appearance completely made Hee-sik's heart skip a beat, and because of this unexpected incident, Hee-sik had lower back pain. At this point, there was only a minute left before the power was restored, and the two people had almost collected all the suspicious things and prepared to leave. Seeing Hee-sik's limp gait, Namsoon couldn't stand it, so she picked him up and ran quickly. On this side, Seo is at the gym. The veins on his arms and neck are all bulging out. Just looking at it, can tell that his strength is also very great, but it has nothing to do with his physical strength, but with the blue water bottle he drinks, because the whole bottle exudes a certain hidden power. At the same time, Gomju received an invitation from an anti-drug website asking her to come to the beach for dinner, so she immediately put on a tight outfit, got on the motorbike, and drove to the meeting place. But as soon as she came out of the door, there was Watcher, so Gomju soon noticed. So on the way, Gomju immediately changed direction and drove towards that person, and this person was the stranger who invited Gomju out. So the two of them immediately rushed to the beach. Gomju originally intended to board the yacht in front of her, but the man led her out another way. Looking in the direction of the man, just Gomju reacted. It turned out that this person wanted to invite her to eat at a roadside restaurant. The owner of this stall is named Magavan, vice president of the anti-drug website. Their family's philosophy is not to live lavishly, but to use the money they earn to do good deeds, or to punish those who do bad things. The strange man also added that this drug prevention website has the strongest intelligence intelligence gathering ability. Its members are mainly retires from various national intelligence agencies. At the same time, it also has the ability to conquer all powerful corporations and know how to use money. Just when Gumju needed a place to show her value, she joined this drug prevention website. On this side, when Namsoon comes home, she always feels like she doesn't like the previous male celebrities anymore. They don't look very handsome. As for the reason, it was because she already liked Hee-sik. Thinking of this, she blushed and grabbed a blanket to wrap herself tightly. Early the next morning, someone reported seeing the scammer, Hwaja, at CO company, but before he could finish speaking, Hwaja stopped him in front of. Hwaja shouted that she was wanted outside, so if anyone dares to touch her, she will chop that person into hundreds of thousands of pieces, then pack them into a courier box. This scared the messenger so much that his legs almost lost sensation. Very quickly, the female police officer informed Hee-sik that someone reported that Hwaja was in CO, which made Hee-sik a bit incomprehensible. Could it be that Hwaja is always following Namsoon? As for Hwaja, she had already started to act. She also couldn't understand why Nam was the tycoon lady had come here to transport goods. But in short, she really wants to deal with Namsoon, because if Namsoon doesn't show up, Yeomju's property belongs to her. At the same time, the manager secretly took photos of Namsoon while working and asked her what caused her to have such great strength. Namsoon told him that since she was a child, she always ate everything raw, especially eating 100 raw eggs every day. So the stupid manager believed it was true. On this side, Lady Choi went to the pawn shop. She took me a diamond worth 5 billion won in exchange for 3 billion won. However, Gumju is afraid that the previous woman will happen again, so she wants to know the reason for the pawning. Mrs. Choi had no choice but to give Gumju a business card. What did she want to use this money for? On the other hand, Hee-sik told Namsoon that Hwaja was also in CO, but Namsoon had no intention of exposing Hwaja. Besides, her mother didn't want her to do that either. It turns out that Gumju intentionally let Hwaja steal some expensive things, because she feels people only do bad things when they are too poor, so she doesn't want to see this happen. But Mr. Gang believes that money is not omnipotent. He is fed up with his ex-wife's way of spending money. Luckily, the grandmother was there, so she promptly stopped their argument. Actually, the first time Gumju saw Hwaja, Gumju felt Hwaja's eyes were very sincere. Perhaps at that moment, she truly considered Gumju her mother. That's why Gumju doesn't want to abandon Hwaja, because after all, they had been mother and daughter for a while. After hearing what her mother said, Namsoon also believes that people can change. On this side, the masks that the special team collected had absolutely no drug reaction, which made the captain angry and ordered Hee-sik to immediately stop being a spy and return to the police station. Just when Hee-sik and Namsoon were preparing to collect the net, the restaurant owner deliberately made things difficult for the two of them. The boss forced them to move the vegetables into the kitchen. If they did not do as he said, it would be complained to the company, because the customer is king. In heart, Namsoon didn't want anything, but Hee-sik didn't want to cause any more trouble, so he agreed. When carrying the things, this man did not forget to mock Namsoon. That was women but do transportation workers, that's why she can't do the job. It was not easy to finish the goods as requested, but the boss added more trouble to them and then pressed his hand hard on Namsoon's forehead. After work ended, Namsoon decided to teach this impolite boss a lesson. She went straight into the store and sat at a table for 8 people. The boss immediately insisted that she change the table to a smaller one, but Namsoon of course did not agree. The boss said he didn't want to sell to her, but Namsoon asked how he could differentiate between customers like that. He himself said that the customer is king. When saw that, he immediately kicked her out, but Namsoon used force to smash the 8-person table and immediately turned it into a single table. This scared the boss so much that he immediately became obedient. On this side, Gumju took Lady Choi's business card had give her to Saw. The person on the business card was someone who specializes in opening shell companies for others. She felt that this person had a problem, so she personally went to the address on this business card. At first, the staff looked down on Gumju, but she was not angry at all and took out a wallet specifically used to hold her bank cards. Then she conveniently showed this woman a savings book, saying that if the boss saw it, he would definitely agree to meet her. Seeing the amount of more than 54 billion on the card, the attitude of the two employees immediately changed 360 degrees. The male employee even tried to seduce Gumju so that he could change his life. Not long after the boss agreed to meet Gumju, this boss's name was Black Song. He gives off a very shiny feeling all over his body. Not only does he like to show off, but he also likes to flirt with others. Just looking at it is enough to know that Geum-ju is bored to death. In short, this time, the two of them seemed to only be getting to know each other briefly, and Mr. Black was looking forward to seeing her again next time. On this side, the female police officer discovered that Hua-ja was an orphan who had been taught by gangsters since childhood. When they turn 20, they will have a stamp on their foot to become an official member. This is so they can easily determine which faction they belong to after death. At the same time, grandmother is planning to flirt with the handsome employee in the shop. She mustered up all her courage and hugged him tightly while lamenting about the change in people's hearts and enjoying the warmth that goes beyond friendship. It turned out that while the grandmother was confiding with the man, his daughter suddenly called and said that she had had a traffic accident. When the grandmother heard that, she immediately told him to call by video because there are really too many scammers these days. After making a video call, his daughter immediately cried and said that she was at the police station and that if she did not pay a settlement fee of 20 million won, she would be detained for investigation. The father immediately softened his heart and immediately gathered all the money to give to his daughter. Suddenly, the grandmother remembered that she had an acquaintance at the police station. It's best to go to the scene to find out the situation first. The two people immediately went to the police station, but among all the cases handled, there was no case where the girl was responsible for the accident. Police officers believe that they must have encountered a scam using AI technology. At the same time, a body was suddenly discovered at the high school swimming pool. The school said that this person was very attractive, but recently this person's spirit has become gloomy and he often skips classes. Strangely, he's been drinking a lot of water lately, even drinking pool water. However, in the bar, the technician's office and bathroom, people also continued to die. Moreover, before dying, they also displayed an extremely terrifying display of strength, and these people all had the common characteristic that they drank a lot of water before dying. On this side, after the grandmother and the handsome employee finished handling the scam, he was heartbroken and burst into tears. At first, the grandmother thought that this person regretted 20 million won, but in reality, his daughter was sick, recently, had a big surgery, and have not recovered yet. He could not accept that the scammers knew his daughter's appearance. Seeing this, the grandmother immediately hugged him and kept saying comforting words, promising to clean up those bad people. At the same time, the man was eating a hamburger in the restaurant when suddenly a beautiful girl walked up to him and gave him a pill, saying that just by taking it, he could lose weight. Moreover, she also said that he was like a diamond in the rough, and if he was thin and successful, he would definitely surprise people. After speaking, she immediately turned around and left. Nam-in was also stunned by those words and did not understand the meaning in them. That night, because Hee-sik was sent to the police station by his superiors, he could only leave Nam-soon alone to collect the masks. Suddenly, she heard heavy breathing from dozens of meters away. At this moment, Co seemed to lose control. He wanted to go somewhere when Nam-soon saw him. Because she was kind, she went to see what was going on, but he knocked her away. When Nam-soon stood up, Co had already disappeared. Not long after Nam-soon arrived home, Geum-ju really wanted to know what her daughter and Hee-sik were doing these days. At this time, Nam-soon also wanted to inform her mother that because Hee-sik received intelligence about drugs to help him, she went to Co to work as a transporter. Suddenly, Nam-soo saw a photo of Vice President of CO Group on Geum-ju's computer, so she immediately remembered that strange person at that time. The next day, the secretary reported to CO at the logistics company, which has a very strong staff, and showed him the video. After CO confirmed that this employee was the Nam-soon he saw at the airport, he became extremely excited. At the same time, Geum-ju clearly told Nam-soon that the person who provided clues in CO that had drugs was her. On this side, while Nam-soon was collecting clues in the warehouse, she suddenly ran into Hwa-ja. Geum-ju lifted Hee-sik's chin and carefully checked his eyes. After confirming there was no problem with his body, she told Hee-sik to quickly marry her daughter. Hearing that, Hee-sik was also extremely surprised. It turned out that the strength of her strong family was only passed on to daughters, not to sons. The X chromosome gene will reach its peak activity at age 22, so it is necessary to find a suitable husband as soon as possible. Just learned that Nam-soon just turned 22 this year, so Geum-ju is a little worried. However, it is impossible for Hee-sik to immediately accept this. On this side, Nam-soon encountered Hwa-ja. Nam-soon said that she and her mother would forgive Hwa-ja once, but there would not be a second time. At this moment, Hwa-ja felt so touched in her heart. At the same time, after seeing Nam-soon's video, Co immediately called the team leader to the office. He wants to use the reason that the company needs to develop talent and nominate logistics staff to build the company's image. purposes so he can observe Nam-soon. After the incident was over, CO promised to give the team leader a higher position. Hearing this, the team leader naturally agreed. During work in the afternoon, an employee was not careful and got caught in the conveyor belt. The hat strap also got stuck inside, making it impossible for him to breathe. Fortunately, Nam-soon's magical eyes saw this scene, so she quickly ran to save him. When the machine broke down, the man was also saved. Hwaja, standing next to her, saw the whole incident and stood there frozen for half a day. At this time, the team leader called her over to say something was wrong. It turned out that while delivering goods, a male customer violated Hwaja, and because she threatened the other person by violating, a complaint was later filed. The team leader did not differentiate between black and white, but insulted Hwaja because she was not the boss's golden child, nor was she a senior manager of the company. Even if a mother came from a rich family, she wouldn't come to work in a place like this. He also said that only those with money are qualified to protect human rights. The group leader warned Hwaja that if something like this happened again, she would immediately get the hell out of this place. After being humiliated, Hwaja once again stood on the brink of evil. On this side, because 5 years ago, after Gumju sent Namin a picture of a pig and teased him, Namin did not actively talk to his mother again, and because of that he always uses food to vent all his anger. So he gets fatter and fatter. Everyone in the family advised Namin to lose weight. The next day, as soon as Gumju arrived at her company, her subordinates reported to her that recently many wealthy companies had used stocks to borrow large amounts of cash as collateral. The purpose is to invest in projects such as private equity funds or real estate trusts. So Gumju immediately guessed that this was Black Song's trick. At this moment, this person called again to make an appointment to meet Gumju this afternoon. Actually, Black Song used his handsome appearance to deceive the rich lady's trust, then used high profits to trick them into investing into the project. Most of these people were stupid, so they fell into the trap, but Gumju was extremely smart, so she outlined his calculations in front of everyone. In the end, the two people's conversation broke up without any fun. At the same time, CO came to Harry Test. All the people in the VIP room were congressmen sponsored by him. On the surface, these people all help each other, but in reality, the only person with the right to speak up is CO. Next, the police decoded the photos of the addicts. On this side, there was a person who gave CO a suitcase. As soon as he opened it, he immediately couldn't control his excitement. Inside the suitcase are all blue bottles. On the other hand, Hwaja was gradually accelerating and then used a knife to stab Nam-soon in the abdomen. What happened in the end? It turned out that because the police team captain was infected with drugs while handling the case, in order not to be discovered by everyone, Hee-sik could only take this guy to his home. On this side, Harry Test's boss offers to arrange a bet for CO and Gumju to meet. In fact, CO has long wanted to meet Gumju, so of course he will agree to her request. Because he had to take care of the captain, Hee-sik immediately informed Nam-soon that he could not go to logistic company today. He also warned her not to rely on her strength to do anything rash, but Nam-soon was confident about her strength without listening to what he said. After hanging up the phone, Hee-sik tried to find a way to detox, completely unaware that his captain had begun to change. This person's consciousness began to become blurred, his mouth constantly mumbling that he wanted to drink water. Next, his whole body began to tremble. Suddenly, he ripped off the handcuffs and threw Hee-sik flying out. Then this person ran like crazy in front of Hee-sik and grabbed his neck. At this time, the captain's eyes turned red and his strength also doubled. Just when Hee-sik was about to not be able to stand it anymore, Nam-soon promptly came to rescue him. However, what others did not expect was that the captain's strength could now withstand Nam-soon. So in the end, the two of them had to join forces to control the captain. Hee-sik is sure that the drug problem is very serious, so they must quickly find it in the transport warehouse. Nam-soon thought for a moment and then decided to bring back all the white things. That night, the secretary told Gumju that the grandmother wouldn't come home tonight. If nothing happened, she would probably be on a date. At the same time, Nam-soon and the beggar couple sneaked into the warehouse to transport goods. On this side, the handsome restaurant staff brought the grandmother to the hotel door. Grandmother immediately understood what he meant, so the young girl's heart began to pound again. However, Seo Jun-hee has a problem with excessive cleanliness. He cannot use public restrooms, so he comes here mainly to use the restroom. As soon as the grandmother heard that, she was furious. She was determined not to let this opportunity slip away. Therefore, she did not restrain herself anymore and directly carried him into the hotel. Early the next morning, many white packages appeared at the door of the police station, which were all sent by Nam-soon. On this side, the captain had gone a day and a night without drinking water, so Hee-sik immediately untied him. It turns out that each person's reaction to drugs is different. The captain only remembered that his muscles had become very big. In In fact, the new drug directly affects the pituitary gland, and not using an antidote will be equivalent to self-destruction. But before death, the user can fulfill their wishes for a moment. As for the current antidote, Dr. Choi discovered that only sea hare blood can inhibit this new drug. Its blood is the blue water bottle that Seo drank. At the same time, Heesik has only mastered the ability of water to activate a new drug. He suggested that the captain try fasting and drinking to see if it worked. The captain told him to go ahead and go to work, but Heesik still worried about the captain's situation. But the school team said that even if Heesik was here, he wouldn't be able to help. Heesik saw that what the captain said was right, but before leaving, he cleaned up all the water in the house. While going to work in the afternoon, Namsoon was secretly stealing white delivery items. It turned out that Heesik was worried about her, so he specially came here to work, not knowing that all their actions were seen by Hwa-ja. On this side, Nam-in the shop accidentally saw an extremely beautiful girl, but this girl not only has a boyfriend but also shows disgust towards him. After being attacked, Nam-in immediately opened the weight loss pill that the mysterious person had previously given him. At the same time, the captain started to get addicted. He searched the house looking for drinking water and finally discovered it in the toilet bowl. While the transportation team leader was watching videos of Namsoon's theft, he accidentally discovered that the person who stole things last night was actually her. At this time, Gyeongju went to Harry Test to meet Seo. On this side, Hwa-ja saw Namsoon. The more she thought about it, the angrier she became, so she immediately took a knife and stabbed Namsoon. For revenge, the fake daughter stabbed the tycoon's lady, standing there looking at her painful appearance, but actually the knife was blocked by Namsoon, then pushed the fake daughter out. But this scene was filmed by the team leader. Namsoon doesn't understand why Hwa-ja wants to kill her. Hwa-ja said that if Namsoon hadn't appeared, she would have continued to live happily. Heesik really couldn't stand it anymore, so directly said that he was a police officer and gave Hwa-ja a chance to confess. However, she could no longer walk because her leg was twisted. On this side, Gyeongju met Seo. After a simple greeting, the two decided to play Indian poker. The betting condition is that the winner can make an offer that the loser cannot refuse. In the end, Seo lost 10 times the bet to Gyeongju. Seo asks what Gyeongju wants from him. Gyeongju wants to know what the real reason for Seo's business success is. It turns out Seo wants to overthrow the capitalist market and gain control of the world and become a predator at the top of the food chain. However, Gyeongju believes that the truly strong must be the one who protects the weak. Her philosophy is to create a new world where everyone can live a better life. That is also the reason why she wanted to invest in Seo. To prove her strength, Gyeongju threw the USB with her personal asset information on the table and said that the surveillance agency finance as well as national tax authorities can find out. So Seo began to feel interested in Gyeongju. He wanted to know what she wanted. She said that she wanted to know who the real investor of Seo was. She always felt that this person was suspicious. Gyeongju wanted to become Seo's investor, and that was her demand. After speaking, she turned around and left Harry Test. On this side, with the help of her son, the grandmother investigated the malware installed on Seo Jun-hee's phone, and the scammer's address has been traced, so the grandmother immediately picked up her bag and rushed out. At the same time, the captain said that he did not drink water to gain the policeman's trust, then took the opportunity to return to the police station. Here Namin's appetite has decreased a lot. He was already full after just eating 2 boxes of chicken wings. He told his father he used a weight loss pill, and after that, he no longer had an appetite. As for the captain on this side, he was not in the mood to handle the case at all. He unscrewed the water bottle and used his hand to dab a little water on his lips, so he immediately became addicted. He could barely control himself and went to Heesik's desk and looked for the new drug. Next, the grandmother went to the door, pulled out the doorknob of the scammer's lair, and swaggered inside. A convenient flick sent the scammer flying several meters away. Then the grandmother grabbed him by the neck and lifted him up. Then she turned around and said to another scammer, "If you don't want your spine to be used to make soup, then obediently confess." After hearing that the scammer still wanted to run away, but no matter how strong the woman was, she still had a weak side, she turned to Seo Jun-hee and told him that he must have been very scared, right? She will slowly explain to him later. Grandma brought 2 scammers to the police station and ordered them to be arrested. Then she advised the scammers to obediently return the money to Seo Jun-hee. After handling this matter, the grandmother and Seo Jun-hee were about to leave when the police informed informed her that the guy who had parked the car indiscriminately had returned to them dead. After a while, the investigation team can learn about the case as reference witnesses. At that time, please cooperate with them a little. On this side, the transportation team leader immediately brought the video of Nam Soon pushing Hua Jia to show CO. In addition, he also learned that Hua Jia was using a fake identity. Her real name was Lee Myung-hee. Next, the team leader informed Nam Soon that the boss wanted to find her to investigate the theft of items from the warehouse. Just when Nam Soon wanted to investigate her boss's office, she happily agreed. But before going there, Nam Soon told Hee-sik this, but he felt that this could not be done arbitrarily. But she told Hee-sik not to worry, because she believed in her strength. Nam Soon then vows to get the logistics customer list. She just arrived at her boss's office and cheered for herself. But when she got to the office, she discovered that the boss was the mysterious man that night, and CO has long wanted to meet the girl who manually brakes the plane. Nam Soon sat down on the chair and seemed very sorry about stealing. She explained that in Mongolia, white things symbolized greatness, and because she didn't have a salary, she couldn't buy gifts for her parents. However, CO said that he really liked Nam Soon's straightforwardness. So, taking that opportunity, Nam Soon immediately asked to be friends with him, and then she asked CO to save her number. Not long after Nam Soon left the office, Hee-sik also returned. He wanted to know how everything was handled. Nam Soon said she used Mongolian tricks to solve the problem. After that, the two of them played around on the empty land without knowing that CO was in the office and noticed their intimate actions. That night, his subordinates reported to him that Gung-ju had recently found her missing daughter, and the source of the information came from the newspaper she owned. But the photo she published is not Nam Soon. On this side, Hee-sik returned to the police station and asked his colleagues to hack into CO's server to find the source code of some products and find the drugs disguised as the products. Suddenly, he received an invitation from Gung-ju to attend the party at her hotel tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Actually, this is a family dinner. It can also be said to be a party to test the future son-in-law, including Hee-sik and employee So Jun-hee. Gung-ju thanked the two for their presence and declared to continue the family tradition. This year she will definitely let my daughter get married. Suddenly, the female secretary publicly announced that she was pregnant and that the baby's father was Mr. Gang. Immediately, Mr. Gang became the focus. The secretary did not mind and urged Mr. Gang to make their relationship public, then they could be together. Everyone seemed very disappointed in Mr. Gang at this time. Gung-ju couldn't keep calm and fainted on the spot. So a happy family dinner suddenly turned chaotic. Suddenly all the lights went out. Then the unexpected happened. It turned out that the whole family had prepared Mr. Gang a surprise birthday. After that, his wife personally went on stage to perform, rekindling the couple's love. After finishing dinner, the drunk grandmother and uncle hugged each other and decided to start a relationship. Hee-sik and Nam Soon talked about their inner feelings. He believes that the most painful thing in life is being separated from the loved ones. When he was 18 years old, his older brother became a star in the sky. At that time, he was studying abroad when he died in a shooting. Only then did Nam Soon understand why Hee-sik wanted to be a police officer. Just when the atmosphere was gradually becoming ambiguous, So Jun-hee suddenly fell to the ground and attracted the attention of two people. Cut to the scene of 3 generations soaking in the hot spring and mentioning Mr. Gang. The grandmother thinks that her daughter should definitely remarry him, but Jung-ju firmly disagreed. At this time, Nam Soon missed the step with its clear sky, bright moon and colorful rainbow. Jung-ju suggested that the three of them take a bucket of water to create an artificial rainbow. After they used force to throw the water up, a rainbow actually appeared in the sky. But unfortunately, Hee-sik caught all of the bathwater. The next day, the police captain disappeared. Hee-sik couldn't be contacted, no matter how much he called. At the same time, Seo called Nam Soon to the office under the pretext of training her in hopes that she would become his subordinate. But the first condition is to pass the test. On this side, that mysterious woman gave Nam's in another weight loss pill. Seo gently pressed a piece of iron several tons down on Nam Soon's body, and she immediately used her divine power. Jung-ju and her grandmother also immediately resonated with each other. Seeing that Nam Soon didn't waste any effort, Seo gained more weight. Under the fierce competition, the machine produced sparks. So in the end, did Nam Soon pass the test smoothly? She supported the stamping machine, weighing tens of tons, and then used force to push it upward, causing the family's bloodline to immediately light up. Then while the machine hadn't fallen yet, she jumped up to a height of more than 10 meters and stood firmly in front of everyone. CO immediately smiled excitedly. On this side, Namin became increasingly dependent on weight loss pills. He even decided to transfer 5 million won to the other person and decided to buy more. Sai-Oh was extremely satisfied with Namsoon's performance, so he invited her to join the company's foreign relations team. He was very curious about where that incredible strength came from, what special training she had undergone, or what she had eaten. At this moment, Namsoon's ears rang with the words that her mother entrusted her, absolutely not to reveal the power that comes from the inheritance of her maternal family, so she immediately thought of an excuse to let this matter go. Then she called Hee-sik. At the same time, Hee-sik arrives at the captain's house, looking like he's better. He also revealed that after returning to the police station, he started drinking water the next day, but nothing unusual happened. Hee-sik saw the captain's rosy face and didn't pay attention, but in fact he brought drugs back from the police station and became addicted. Furthermore, his body has already begun to change. At this time, Hee-sik left the scene and received a phone call from Namsoon. She said that she passed the test and was able to work with Sai-Oh. Suddenly, the transport team leader called. He followed the recipe given by Namsoon to eat 100 raw eggs every day. The result was vomiting and diarrhea throughout the night. In addition, he had just received notice from the police that the third team's part-time employee had died yesterday, so he hoped Namsoon can go to the police station on his behalf. I turned out that the part-time employee had 40 million won in credit card debt, and in order to pay off the debt, this person risked life working. During the day, this guy works at a logistics company. At night, drives a car. During breaks, this guy also set up street stalls, working more than 20 hours a day. After hearing this, Namsoon immediately froze on the spot. She couldn't believe that Korea still had such poor people. The police immediately explained that Korea is also a country in the world with more poor people than rich people. In addition, this employee's relatives also refused to accept the body, all of whom asked social units to support the burial. Namsoon was a little heartbroken, so she decided to visit this person's house a little. However, the truth is far different from what she thought. Namsoon went to the employee's house and told the child, who had just lost his father, not to cry. She said that in Mongolia, tears block the path of the dead soul. As a result, this boy actually laughed. On this side, the police have found information about drug trafficker Shin Gang-soo. This person had studied ballet in Russia and had no criminal record. Now he is an employee of Harry Test Club with a salary of more than 20 million yen, won a month, and is a high earner every year. In addition, Sai-Oh is also a member of Harry Test. That night, Hee-sik met Namsoon and advised her to stay out of the next investigation because after all, Sai-Oh is a dangerous character. Of course, Namsoon won't agree. In addition, a colleague she worked with just passed away yesterday, so she really couldn't understand how people die when they work too hard. Hee-sik told Namsoon that if there are rich people like Gumju, there will also be extremely poor people. Just as where there is light, there will be darkness. Capitalism means that when someone loses money, someone can make money. After listening, Namsoon said she wanted to rush into the darkness to become a light for them. But the next day when she went to work, Harry Test's boss tested her for alcohol poisoning. It turns out that on her first day at work, Namsoon wore a special watch equipped with a positioning function and a pinhole camera that Hee-sik gave her. How to use is extremely simple. Just raise your hand towards the direction you want to take a photo. Next, the first task that SIO gave her was to memorize the information of everyone on the list. Namsoon didn't understand why he let her do paperwork, but also tested her strength. He said that she would soon understand. Besides her, no one can help him do what he wants. Because those jobs are very dangerous, he needs someone who is fearless. In addition, Sai-Oh also told her to call him by his name. In Korea, only friends or close people can call each other that way. While the two people talked, the pinhole camera uploaded the captured information in real time. Hee-sik saw that the two of them were getting closer and closer and started to get jealous. He was so angry that he was about to crazy. In addition, his colleagues tracked down the owner of Harry Test, so Hee-sik had to follow the team there to investigate. On this side, CO took Namsoon to a place. On the way, Namsoon read out loud the names on the list. On the surface, it's to memorize them, but actually it's reading it to Hee-sik. Sai-Oh curiously asked if she had to read it out loud to remember it. Namsoon nodded. There were two people on the list who looked so similar that Namsoon Soon couldn't tell them apart. CO suggested that she just call them sir. Just mentioning the word Mr. Nam Soon suddenly remembered a folk song. She immediately sang to CO. CO is normally very strict, but he sang with her. Looking at his expression, he probably already likes Nam Soon. Very quickly in the surveillance camera, Hee-sik saw CO taking Nam Soon to Harry test, and at the same time drug dealer Shin Young-soo was also here. CO informs the boss that her job will be taken over by Nam Soon. As soon as the boss heard this sentence, she immediately called CO to a corner. She didn't know who Nam Soon was, and she didn't know why Nam Soon suddenly took over her job. CO expressed that Nam Soon is a gift from heaven to him, but the boss doesn't care that much. In short, Nam Soon has to gain her trust. A moment later, the boss poured a glass of wine for Nam Soon and told her to drink it, but as soon as Nam Soon finished drinking, she immediately fell to the ground in pain. Seeing this, the boss immediately scolded Nam Soon, saying that if Nam Soon didn't have a little vigilance, how could Nam Soon take over the job for her? It turns out she added a small amount of dolphin toxin to the wine to paralyze Nam Soon for about 3 hours. By the time she was about to leave, Nam Soon had already stood up and nothing had happened. It turns out Nam Soon's body can resist all types of poison. Nam Soon grabbed the boss who wanted to run away and threw her back on the sofa. Then the two of them risked their lives to drink. In the end, the boss got so drunk that she passed out. At this time, a message appeared on her phone saying that today's quota had been completed. Nam Soon quietly remembered and left. After going out the door, she determined that no one was following her and sat in Hee-sik's car. She is extremely certain that the Club Harry is related to drugs, and she plans to go to Sayo's office today to steal the customer list. Hee-sik feels it's too dangerous. What if someone finds out? But Nam Soon firmly told him that she was a high-ranking special agent. That night, Hee-sik was still very nervous as before. His colleagues felt that Nam Soon definitely had a winning strategy. Add disguises and special equipment, and it's like a commando in the movies. Not only do they have excellent skills and are calm and fearless, but they can also decode computer data. But in reality, Nam Soon disguised herself as a Sandalko and secretly invaded CO's office. She ran in small steps to the computer and intended to take the computer screen with her. It was at this time that the security guard on night patrol discovered her. Nam Soon took the opportunity to open the window, jump out and run away. In just a moment, she was nowhere to be seen again. The two guys drove at full speed but still couldn't catch up. Finally, Hee-sik found Nam Soon at the park. Even though she was caught stealing a computer by security, she still felt that she had prepared very good. In addition, she also overheard the gangsters who were fostering Sayo. These people were running a huge drug network. On the other hand, Gomju received a phone call from her father. It turned out that he was not dead. In 2 days, her father will return to the country, which also means that the grandmother will become an adulterer. Grandma did not know anything but was intimately walking around the amusement park with Sojun-hee. Very soon, Gomju learned of the news that Hwaja attacked Nam Soon. Suddenly, Gomju came to find Hwaja and confronted her for harming Nam Soon. Right now, Hwaja is blaming Nam Soon. She thinks that as long as Nam Soon doesn't appear, she can become Gomju's daughter. It was Nam Soon who took away the happiness that belonged to her. However, Jeomju was not angry at all, but instead used love to touch Hwaja. Jeomju promises that as long as Hwaja can honestly know her mistakes, she will receive Gomju's forgiveness. This way, she can also become Gomju's daughter. On the other hand, Nam Soon intentionally said disrespectful words to a colleague who looked like she was 40 years old, making people extremely offended. Nam Soon also said that colleague was younger than her. It turned out that Nam Soon was praising her beautiful young female colleague, making the college extremely happy. At the same time, the secretary reported that the computer was stolen last night. Even the surveillance video was infiltrated and deleted by hackers. The place where the thief jumped from the building was right in the camera's blind spot. Only the intersection where the thief ran through had a camera. They are currently seeking an access order. After listening, CO stared at the secretary and then stabbed a knife into the security guard's thigh. Dare to enter the office to steal the computer. The first person CO thought of was Gomju. He ordered all stock certificates of unknown origin related to the company to be erased. On the other hand, the police found a photo and a song on CO's computer. In addition, they did not discover any useful clues. Hee-sik immediately informed Nam Soon of this news. Hee-sik asks Nam Soon to get a list of foreign transactions, so Nam Soon happily agreed. At the same time, after Nam In took the weight loss pills, he drank water like crazy, not knowing if he was addicted or not. The next day, the secretary investigated information about the company and Gomju's private car, and neither appeared in the vicinity of their company. The security guard remembered the thief wearing white clothes and makeup exactly like Sandalko. and seemed to be as tall as the other girl. Seo immediately remembered Gumju's daughter, who had just been found when she was lost and had great strength. He decided to personally investigate. Then he arranged to meet Hua. Seo promises that as long as she tells the truth, he will help her avoid going to jail. Namsoon is Gumju's daughter, right? Previously, Hua was moved by Gumju's words, so she lied that Namsoon was not Gumju's daughter. The daughter's Korean is not very good, but when she was asked why she killed Namsoon, Hwaja's brain circuits turned quickly. Then she used it as an excuse because she hated others for looking down on her and being bossy, but couldn't believe that Seo actually believed it. On the way back, he looked at the fake photo of Namsoon that Jeomju published and smiled lovingly because he really liked Namsoon. That day, the security guard wondered that this person jumped from such a height and would definitely die, but that person disappeared. The guy complained and whined for a while, but Namsoon didn't understand Russian, so when two people talk for a while, they don't understand anything. Finally, for some reason, she carried the tall guy a long way. Then, Namsoon used translation software to ask about Seo also inhaling drugs from the tall guy. Under normal circumstances, drug traffickers will not touch drugs. Besides, the previous addicts had all died, so why wasn't he affected? Not long after that, Seo calls Namsoon to the office and he wants to take her somewhere. He conveniently asked why her Korean was so fluent. She said it was because she wanted to marry a Korean man. Seo was extremely satisfied when he heard this answer. The next day, Hee-se pretends to be Gumju's subordinate and goes to the Harry Test Club. As soon as he entered the room, he installed a wiretap. What people didn't expect was that Seo brought Namsoon there right after. The eyes of mother and daughter looked at each other deeply but did not reveal it. After the four people sat at the dining table, Gumju was very curious about who the person behind Seo was. Seo said that she cannot know the answer from him. He said if she was confident that she could beat him, she should try. A 3-year-old company without any debt, total market value is nearly 2,000 billion won. Actually, Gumju investigated Seo's funding source from the Russian mafia. As soon as he heard these words, Seo's face suddenly changed, but Gumju still pressed closer step by step, warning him not to overthrow the existing model. Suddenly, Namsoon spoke up to stop Gumju. She felt that Gumju's words were a bit too much. Gumju didn't say a word but stood up and left the Harry Test Club. At this time, Seo became more interested in Namsoon, and at the same time, he had thoughts of killing Gumju. After the meeting ended, the boss planned to take Namsoon to see the sea, not knowing that she was hiding a huge conspiracy. A moment later, the two of them arrived at the harbor, when suddenly dozens of thugs appeared around. The boss wants to see how talented Namsoon, whom Seo values, but before she finished speaking, Namsoon lifted the container behind and scared the thugs away, but she blocked their escape route. Not long after Namsoon returned home, she didn't know why her mother said that to Seo, but her mother had her own business concept, so the two of them quarreled again. Jeomju did not expect that the daughter she worked so hard to find would quarrel with her. Seeing this, the father quickly advised the two women in front of him, but very soon, mother and daughter reconciled. That night, Seo went to the warehouse. He thought about Gumju's words and became even angrier, so he hit the shelf, and the shelf, which was over 9 meters high, just collapsed. It was very clear that he had used something to stimulate his power. The next day, Mr. Gang discovered that his son had fainted in the bathroom. No matter how Mr. Gang called Nam, he can't wake up. At this time, Seo called someone and asked him to kill someone for him. Namsoon is now actively complimenting her female colleague. Namsoon took advantage of her colleague's attention to write down the shipping list with her watch and use her magical eyes to read the bill of lading code. Not long after, Seo calls Namsoon to his office and asks her to kill someone for him. After Namsoon heard this name, she was extremely scared. Actually, she already guessed in her heart who Seo wanted to kill. That is Gumju. Namsoon did not expect that Seo would tell her to kill her mother, but Seo misunderstood that he had threatened Namsoon, so he immediately explained that Gumju was dead. At the same time, a truck was slowly passing by. Gumju was lying in the car, bleeding from the head. It seemed like she was no longer breathing. After Gumju's accident, she immediately was taken to the hospital that she ran. But strangely, the security guard forbade anyone from visiting, including the police. On the other hand, Namsoon knew that Seo wanted to kill her mother, so her said that he didn't just want to, but had to decisively do it. She immediately expressed her support for his decision. As long as it was what he wanted, she would definitely follow it. This made Seo's confidence increase even more. At the same time, the grandmother rushed to the hospital, but the security guard still did not allow her to visit her daughter. Grandma pushed open the door and saw Gumju wrapped in bandages all over the body and was extremely sad. Then she went to the hospital bed and burst into tears. She could not believe that her daughter was so seriously injured. For a mother, there is no pain more painful than the present. It was at this moment that Geumju's phone called to tell her grandmother to stop crying. It turns out that night, Nam-soon was worried that if Geumju challenged Seo, something unexpected would happen. In fact, her mother, who has been in business for so many years, clearly understands that people's hearts are the scariest. She did a good job of preparing, because people will always make mistakes while acting impulsively or based on emotions. Therefore, they must take advantage of this point to expose Seo's loopholes. Of course, the next day, a truck always followed Geumju. Geumju knew that the other person had fallen into a trap, so she immediately called Hee-sik and informed him of the truck's license plate number. Geumju told him to investigate the cameras at the intersection. Then a strange man suddenly appeared, after which she was taken to the hospital. She ran herself. On the other side, Nam-soon suddenly discovered the metal rack had collapsed. The warehouse owner thought it was caused by her, but while the two people talked, Nam-soon used her magical eyes to see the bill of lading code 4.85 that she wanted to find. At the same time, Hee-sik heard the owner of the Harry Test Club discussing the antidote with someone in the surveillance room. It appears there were drugs involved and someone spending money to save lives. That night, Seo called Nam-soon into the office. Before entering the room, Nam-soon saw this person drinking a bottle of green water. He wanted to invite her to dinner. Even though Nam-soon didn't like it, he still reluctantly agreed. But when Hee-sik saw the two of them eating intimately, he got mad. Suddenly, Seo an incoming call. He deliberately used Russian to instruct the other party to deliver the goods on time, and the bill of lading code was 4.885, but did not know that the whole process had been filmed. After eating, Seo proposed to take Nam-soon home. Hee-sik immediately sent a text message telling her to wait at his house. On way Nam-soon look at the stars late at night. She said she could distinguish the truth from the fake light. After hearing this, Seo hesitated a bit. He wanted to know if he was a real light or a fake one. Such a difficult question made Nam-soon think for a long time. She was afraid that her answer would be revealed. She said that he might not know whether he was a real light or a fake one, but if he tried hard, he could become true. On the way back, Seo remembered Nam-soon's words and the unhappy things from when he was young. He suddenly let out a sigh. By the time Hee-sik returned home, Nam-soon had fallen asleep. He discovered that the corner of her mouth still had leftover food on it, so he was about to help her clean it, resulting in the two of them suddenly kissing. Hee-sik explains that he didn't mean it, so Nam-soon accepts and expresses that she understands. Then she conveniently ate the leftover food in her mouth. After calming down, Nam-soo told Hee-sik that she determined Seo was using drugs, because last time she saw this person had the characteristic of becoming strong, but it's unclear why he wasn't affected. He didn't even drink water. Hee-sik suddenly remembered the antidote and speculated that it was related to the transaction, but as they talked, he was always drawn to Nam-soon's lips. To divert his attention, he ate noodles. Nam-soon said she wanted to eat too. Hee-sik took this opportunity to kiss Nam-soon on the lips. The next day, when Geumju learned that her daughter was spending the night outside, not only did she not get angry, but she also encouraged her daughter to live at Hee-sik's house. So not only will they live together, but they will also reduce Seo's suspicions. But Nam-soon is determined to use the official procedure to marry Hee-sik. On the other side, Mr. Gang brought Namin's weight loss pills to Hee-sik and asked him for help. Since Namin took this medicine, he has not wanted to eat and only wants to drink water every day. So Mr. Gang suspected that this weight loss medicine was fake, and he hoped to be able to check the ingredients of the medicine. At the same time, Nam-soon flattering her colleagues for many days was not a waste. From her colleague, she learned about the delivery time and asked this person to hide the fact that she was sneaking out. If Seo comes looking for Nam-soon, she asked this female colleague please to hide it for her. The reward price is a box of kimchi mandu cake. Very soon, Nam-soon arrived at the warehouse. She used her magical eyes and saw that there were workers pushing 4,885, and that direction was not the warehouse exit, so she took advantage of that moment to quickly run and get into the cargo truck. Hee-sik and his colleagues immediately took action. He disguised himself as a girl and pretended his car was broken, so he stopped the truck. Her slim, attractive body, angelic face, and fair skin attracted the driver. The driver proactively asked to fix the car for him, and his colleague took the opportunity to open the container and receive a sample that Nam-soon gave. The duck feathers used in the sample turn into powder when exposed to water, which is also the drug the police are looking for. At the same time, Hee-sik informed Geumju that Nam-in's weight loss pills tested to contain new drug ingredients. On the other hand, Seo searched for Nam-soon all day, so he was a bit unhappy. It turned out that Seo expressed his feelings for Nam-soon, and you could see that Nam-soon was extremely surprised. At this moment, her phone rang, and at the same time, Hee-sik discovered that the captain was dead in the house. Before he died, he left a message, a brown diary diary on the second shelf of the bookshelf. It turns out that every day the captain records the situation of him when used drug and investigates the network behind it. Even a second before he died, he wanted to think of a way to leave evidence for his colleagues. It can be said that he is an extremely great police officer in catching drug criminals. At the same time, Nam Soon had just arrived at her father's studio when she received a call from Hee Sik. He specifically told her not to let Nam In drink water. According to the notes left by the captain, the water ban period must be over 24 hours. Suddenly Nam Soon remembers that a new type of drug has an antidote. Jumju realized that this was CO's ultimate goal. Soon Nam In was taken to the hospital, and Mr. Gang saw his son's discomfort and was extremely heartbroken. He vowed that he would drag out the mastermind behind it. Jumju clearly understands Mr. Gang's personality, so she immediately tells her daughter to chase him. She looked like a strong woman, but when she looked at Nam In's appearance, a feeling of guilt rose in her heart. Mr. Gang walked out the door begging his former colleagues to let them find a bank account, but no one was willing to help him. Nam Soon feels that it would be faster to go to the police about this, but the police have regulations that cannot reveal citizens' personal information. Mr. Gang begged the police to help him. He did not want to lose his beloved son. The female police officer was moved by Mr. Gang's sincere plea. She hinted that although it was not stated clearly, they could take a peek when she was not here. After speaking, she got up and went to the bathroom. Father and daughter immediately wrote down the account information, but as soon as Mr. Gang saw it, he knew that this was a customer pretending to be a beggar or borrowing the identity of an unknown person to use as an identification card. When talking about beggars, Nam Soon remembers the beggar couple. She immediately contacted the other person and asked them to find a beggar to borrow the account. The beggar guy agreed without thinking. At the same time, Namin woke up from a coma, but he suddenly wanted to leave and asked for water. Luckily, Jumju has great strength, so she can force her son to lie down on the bed. The next day, CO received a phone call from his superior, informing him that a container of 4,885 worth $1 million was missing a product. The other party demanded that he find it within 24 hours, otherwise he would face the consequences. The police on the other side learned from the team leader's notes that the Harry Test Club and the chief prosecutor, the judge, the police department, and even the rich people of Korea were all involved. Hee Sik couldn't sit still anymore. He rushed to the Harry Test Club to take away the man with the scar on his face and warned the owner not to think about running away. Thus the crime becomes even more serious. At the same time, Seo called the transport driver to the office so he could think carefully about what happened on the way. The driver remembered that after leaving a woman ran to ask for help, but he didn't know about anything else. Looking at his scared look, he was probably telling the truth. Seo immediately told his subordinates to check the truck's trip history. Thanks to the beggar's help, father and daughter found the beggar whose name was used. According to his memory, a year ago, a woman wearing red high heels told him to open 4 bank cards. He immediately gave the contact number for Mr. Gang, but Mr. Gang could not believe that the other person would not answer the phone. Namsoon told her father to try using another number to call. Namsoon then immediately told his mother to try contacting the woman wearing high heels. Just at that moment, the woman wearing high heels received a phone call from her boss. The boss announced that the man with the scar had been captured and told the high-heeled woman to hide for now. Just like that, that woman missed Gumju's phone call. The boss then reports to Seo that the person who captured her subordinate is Hee Sik, the person Gumju brought. Coincidentally, the person who stopped the truck was also him, which made Seo extremely angry. Until late at night, they still couldn't call the woman wearing red high heels, nor did she respond to messages. Gumju saw that Nam In was getting weaker and thought of a way. She agreed to spend 1 billion won in cash to buy the antidote. Jumju said that if I transferred the money to your bank account, you would have to divide it with someone else. But if I gives you cash, the money will be yours. As expected, this attractive offer made her excited, so the two arranged to meet at a coffee shop. Seeing Han Min-jung happily counting money, Jumju almost couldn't hold back her anger. If it weren't for her son's safety, she wouldn't do business with these mafia people. The woman wearing red heels said you just need to mix it with water and drink it, but Gumju wonders and asks if can't drink water, but the woman with red heels said this must be taken with water. When Gumju returned to the hospital, she immediately gave Nam In a blue bottle of water to drink. Not long after Nam In regained his health. That day when Seo was using a new type of drug, Nam soon saw him. At the same time, the strange man informed Gumju that the leader behind Seo was in Korea. After Nam soon saw Seo finish using drugs, the mysterious person's phone called. Just like that, he went straight out. It turned out that the leader sent someone to ask for an antidote. Actually, Seo wanted to escape the organization's control for a long time, so he used the excuse that they had no right to interfere with his career. He held a stick to deal with the person sent. On the other hand, the strange man tells Gamju that the drug prohibition website has just decoded the mafia code. A leader named Note is in Korea, most likely monitoring her, so she has to be careful. At the same time, the man with the scar died in the detention center. After meeting with the lawyer, this person drank a bottle of something. Not long after, his heart disease relapsed, and he died. Hisik speculates that it was not because he freed himself from his life. At this time, the boss disguised herself as a nurse. She wanted to kill Jamju. However, the person lying on the bed comes from a special forces background and martial arts skills, so it must be said that she's a good person in the industry. But she was almost killed by the boss. Luckily, Gumju arrived in time to strangle the boss and lift this woman into the air. Jumju wants the owner to convey to the person stand behind that she is still alive. On the other side, Seo invited Nam-soon to lunch. He really loves her. He suggested starting to be friends and asked her what is most important in a friendship relationship. In Nam-soon's perception, they should know each other's secrets. So Seo revealed that he used to have such a friendship, but after the age of 10, he no longer kept in touch. Even though the two people had similar circumstances, they made different decisions. From then on, they no longer contacted each other. He thought he was very clumsy in friendship and love. He always thought that he was not qualified to have these things, but when he was with her, friendship and love both made him very excited. It was at this moment that the owner informed him that Gomju was not injured and the plan failed. Seo was extremely angry after hearing this, making Nam-soon also very scared. He then told the security guy to monitor Gomju's secretary and her family. Actually, Seo always didn't understand one thing clearly. Usually when the mother is in the hospital, the daughter comes to take care of the mother, but Gomju's daughter has never been here before. Could it be that mother and daughter joined hands to act? But no matter what, he will definitely kill Gomju and her daughter. On the other side, Gomju informed Hisik that the other side had discovered that she was pretending to be injured, and Jumju proposes to prioritize targeting the henchmen that no one cares about. So Hisik immediately stopped Han Min-jung, who wanted to run away. He arrested her and informed that the scarred man had been killed by someone else, and now being caught by the police was the only way to save her life. It turns out that the suitcase of money that Jumju gave her had a GPS tracker attached. That night after work, Hisik asked Nam-soon to move into his house to avoid suspicion, but she wants him to move into her house because according to family tradition, strong girls must live with the person they love to give birth to a healthy daughter. After hearing this sentence, Hisik's face turned red because he was embarrassed. At the same time, Gumju is worried about the secretary's safety, so she tells this to temporarily stay in a hotel under Gumju's name, and Jumju sent 10 subordinates to protect her ex-husband and son to interrogate Han Min-jung. It turned out that she was managing more than 100 drug addicts under the orders of her boss. There were countless middlemen working like this in Korea. In addition, Han Min-jung only knew that the antidote contained sea hare blood. At the same time, the justice minister told Seo to come to the office. He warned Seo not to think that they had met several times and that they had equal status. After speaking, he threw the documents in Seo's face, but unexpectedly, Seo was not angry at all, but also read the justice minister's resume. From joining to promotion, even the family situation, even the dog's name is known. He advises the other person to control their emotions. Even if you don't have to think about yourself, you have to think about your daughter, who is studying abroad. Seo threatened the justice minister that if I were the mafia, then of course would be an addict, because the ingredients of the drugs being sold cannot be traced. The documents of the living are even scarier than those of the dead. And I, as a living witness, I can prove that you used drugs. Seo expressed that if I surrendered, I would kill your wife, daughter, and lover. But I will spare the dog in your house, because a dog will not bite back, but will only be loyal. On the other side, Hisik released Hunmeng and told her to give the money she earned to the boss, so that the boss would not be suspicious, with the condition that she must bring back a list of drug traffickers across the country. At this time, the Harry Test Club was in chaos. They were looking for eavesdropping devices, so they didn't pay attention to Han Min-jung. Soon, Hisik received a text message from Nam-soon that she had made a delicious dish for him. A colleague heard that the two of them were together and said that it seemed that they had been close lately. Young people now often live together before getting married. Everyone agrees that Hisik is in love with Nam-soon, and the noise wanted to test the bride's cooking skills, hence this awkward scene. But Hisik feels extremely delicious. At the same time, Seo wants to exchange for Nam-soon an apartment or made her an identity, but she resolutely refused. Seo didn't understand clearly that he had already confessed everything, but she refused to agree. But she still feels like she doesn't fully understand him. Seo, immersed in love, will agree that no matter what she asks him, he will answer honestly. But what he didn't expect was that Nam-soon wanted to know why the company had a research room. Seo finally agrees to take her there. After a few people finished eating, a colleague suggested publishing the news, accusing Seo of transporting and exporting drug jackets. But the Minister of Communications is a member of the Harry Est Club, and his colleagues also suspect that Seo has known about this for a long time. When Hee-sik heard this, he thought of a way. He took his coat and went out the door. The scene changes to a person wearing a big coat like a panda coming to Geum-ju's office, made Geum-ju startled. And this person is Hee-sik. It turns out he asked Geum-ju to arrange for Central Television to broadcast hot news. But that night, the secretary was on the way to the television station when someone drugged. At the same time, Seo took Nam-soon to an apartment complex. Now he is completely immersed in unrequited love. He even secretly decided to betray the organization for her. But when Nam-soon returned home, she discovered Hee-sik had fallen asleep on the sofa. She carefully picked him up and gently placed him on the bed. When she was about to leave, Hee-sik suddenly pulled her hand back. At this moment, two people gave each other love. On the other hand, Geum-ju cannot contact the secretary. At this time, Nam-soon, after putting Hee-sik to sleep quietly, ran to the living room to report to her mother that she was not coming home today and not to contact her about work early in the morning. Hee-sik is very tired, so she wants him to get a good night's sleep. Geum-ju was very happy when she heard this. Geum-ju really hopes that her daughter can reap the rewards at Hee-sik's house during this time. She also specifically warned that late at night is very long. At the same time, the secretary woke up from a coma, and there was a drug test report above. Suddenly, there was a call from an unknown number. Seo told the secretary to quickly get tested because she had been injected with drugs. So in the future she must follow his instructions, otherwise she will bear the consequences. The next day, Geum-ju's TV station announced that the Seo group was dealing in drugs. To ensure the stable operation of transport routes, the director of the Korean Broadcasting and Television Bureau, chief judge of the Seoul Western Court, the chief prosecutor, and deputy minister of the procuracy, and most members of the political community were all involved in the process of concealing the drug number 4885. The outside looks like a down jacket, but when the brittle cotton fibers are dissolved with water, they turn into drugs. After Seo saw the news, he immediately told the secretary to file a complaint against the television station, accusing that side of spreading false information. Nam-soon just arrived at work and met Seo, who wanted to go out. He wanted her to come with him. Nam-soon lied that she had a lot of work to do today, so she stayed in the office alone. Soon Seo arrived at the Harry Test Club. The corrupt directors were all waiting for him because they are afraid of losing their current status. Seo ordered the director of the radio and television department to announce his innocence and accused Geum-ju's TV station of mesmerizing people and spreading baseless news during difficult times. He told everyone that the most important thing right now is whether you can survive or not, because conversations in here are all bugged. So the people sitting here have had their identities revealed. Of course, the evidence of bribery is also in the other party's hands. He then ordered the chief prosecutor to investigate in detail about Geum-ju and her daughter named Gang Nam-soon. At the same time, Nam-soon took advantage of the office being empty to pretend to call her adoptive mother right under the camera. She expressed her nostalgia while using a chair to shield herself, so she took Seo's spare phone. She immediately returned to her seat and copied all the contents out. Then, ignoring the team leader's questioning, she ran with all her might to return the phone to the right location a second before Seo returned. It was at this moment that the backup phone rang. It was a person named Bong. After hanging up the phone, Seo confessed his love to Nam-soon by telling her his secret. He smiled sincerely and decided to take Nam-soon to the research room, but Nam-soon used the excuse of going to the bathroom to inform Hee-sik that she would quickly send him the data of the backup phone. But this conversation was heard by the team leader. Hee-sik found the phone number of the local people from the documents sent, and the person using this phone number was Bong. At the same time, Seo and Nam-soon went to the research room. The main purpose was to meet Bong. Nam-soon used the excuse of not bothering the two people talking, so she left. She took pictures of her surroundings with her watch. Coincidentally, coming to a secret door, she gently pushed it open and went inside. This is where the antidote is researched. On the other hand, Seo clarified that the right to research the antidote belongs to him, so the mafia party has no right to interfere, but Bong said that he would have to pay for his life. The two of them kept arguing like that. At the same time, the easiest to deal with was grandmother was followed by an assassin, but she didn't know anything and was still happily dating Jun-hee. So then, what will happen next? A 70-year-old grandmother was threatened by an assassin, but what she was most concerned about was how these people got into her car and what this foreigner was saying. Grandma coordinated with the assassins to an abandoned warehouse. She lost patience and told them to quickly go in and close the warehouse's large door. Then there was the sound of fierce fighting and heavy gunfire from inside. The assassins were seriously injured, lying on the ground. Even the foreigner doesn't know who he is anymore. On the other side, Seo took Namsoon back to the apartment. He also carefully lifted her bangs. He confessed that the organization did not trust him, so sent Bomb to monitor. As for the research institute, which was his dream, so he bet everything on this time. Seo was devoted to Namsoon, but after Namsoon saw Seo leave, she cursed him as a bastard. It was at this time that Hee-si called and asked Namsoon to investigate when Seo bought the sea rabbit from Busan. Namsoon thought of a way, so he immediately called his female colleague. At the same time, the secretary holding the drug test card seemed completely devastated, but suddenly, Seo called to inform her that the drugs she was injected with were easily detectable. Furthermore, there was a lot of hair falling out in the taxi, and we also investigated the secretary's younger sister who was studying abroad in Shanghai. Because Korea has no tolerance for drug users, he threatens her to clarify tomorrow that the inaccurate news was all done by Gongju. Because patriotism does not deceive the people, the secretary chose to confess, otherwise he would send drugs to her sister tomorrow, and turning that sister into a drug criminal to get arrested. The secretary quickly hung up the phone after listening, but when she called her sister, no one answered. Namsoon here is extremely close, like siblings, with her female colleague. No matter what she asked, the other person did not hesitate to answer. Namsoon asked when the goods would arrive at the port of Busan, and the female colleague said that it was the 25th of every month. That day, imported sea rabbits will be transported to Busan port. On the other hand, Seo was immersed in love. He returned to the company and sent a text message asking what Namsoon was doing. Namsoon sat in his father's studio and randomly took a photo to send. Seo looked at her lovely appearance and suddenly smiled happily. It was at this moment that the secretary reported that an employee's younger brother died in the company due to drugs. Claiming to have investigated documents in Gang Namsoon's house, Seo immediately told his secretary to bring someone to meet him. On the other side, the director of the radio and investigation department recorded a video of Namsoon saving the baby in the fire. Not long after the secretary brought someone to the office, this boy had Namsoon's phone number. While he was searching, the chief called to report that he had found Gang Namsoon's whereabouts and sent this guy a photo of her face. At the same time, Gumju's secretary was nervous, her hands shaking continuously in the TV station. Gumju glanced and realized that this person had a problem. The boy found Namsoon's phone number, identical to the phone number CO saved. At that moment, the image of the face was also sent to the younger brother, who upon looking at it realized that the person in the photo was Namsoon. Only then did CO understand everything. On this side, Gumju discovered that the secretary's behavior was unstable and immediately ordered the broadcast to stop and called her into the room alone. She asked with concern what happened. The secretary confessed that she was threatened by CO. Actually, from the beginning, she never wanted to betray. After hearing this, Gumju extremely blamed herself. She regretted dragging the secretary into this matter, but she promised the two sisters they would be safe. So Gumju immediately called the strange man and revealed the news that CO Group was buying and selling drugs. That way they can broadcast smoothly. On the other side, the drug drum team insisted on investigating, so He6 Group was dismissed by their superiors. Thanks to Gumju's arrangement, they moved to the basement warehouse of her house to continue work. This place is called the safest and strictest place in Korea, but Gumju asked that no one else know about this. That includes Namsoon. At the same time, CO deeply regretted not killing the secretary and Namsoon soon. He finally understood why the organization directly killed the traitor, not giving any chance. But as soon as he finished speaking, his mind suddenly remembered the little things about Namsoon, countless sweet memories that stimulated CO. The next day, he seemed to turn into a different person. He told his subordinates to summon reporters to the warehouse, this time to prove what was called the truth. The other party at the family meeting, Gumju, brought the entire family to Busan to investigate sea rabbits, but Namsoon didn't clearly understand that just her and her mother were enough, so why did her mother bring the whole family? Gumju tells her to think for herself. Can the men take care of themselves? Namsoon turned her head to look in the opposite direction. Her father only knew how to cause trouble. Her younger brother was naive and easily deceived. Her uncle was weak and useless. Her intuition said that what her mother did was right. At this time, the grandmother came out and said that she did not want to go to Busan. She wanted to experience the world with her handsome boyfriend. Suddenly, there was a call to the police wanting to search all properties in Jumju's name. Unexpectedly, Jumju was extremely excited after hearing it. She not only told her subordinates to have a good attitude, but also told them to help the procuracy organize documents. On the other side of the warehouse packed with reporters, CO took out a jacket from shipment 4,885 and quickly made 2 cuts. He took a handful of feathers and put them on the table and poured water on them. He explained that he had taken back most of the coats sold to prove they did not sell drugs. In addition, Gomju's television station was accused of reporting false news. The reporter did not understand why the other side had to spread such rumors. CO lied that Gomju once proposed to become an investor in the corporation, but after he refused, she immediately came back to take revenge. At the same time, Han Minjung got the owner drunk and successfully got Harry Test's guest list. After receiving the intelligence, Hee-sik began to develop his plan. Very quickly, the investigation about Gomju had results. Not only is she an honest taxpayer of Korea, but she has even been praised by the president many times without any blemishes at all. The next day, while the deputy prosecutor was interviewing Hee-sik's group disguised as a TV station employee, used technology to broadcast videos about the victim's family and the new drug research lab that Nam-soon was photographed. As soon as this incident was revealed, it shocked the whole of Korea. CO temporarily couldn't find Nam-soon's whereabouts, so he didn't know where to vent his anger and his heart. At this time, Nam-soon went to Busan to meet her adoptive mother in Mongolia, and they were both very happy. The next day, Hojia was reformed. After walking out of the restaurant, an assassin followed her and stabbed her in the stomach. No need to guess to know that the person behind the instructions was CO. At this time, Gomju called. CO picked up the phone. After hearing Gomju's voice, he was even more certain that he had been deceived. Therefore, he decided to start taking revenge. That night, the grandmother's coffee shop was smashed to pieces and didn't know where Uncle Seo Jun-hee went. When the grandmother arrived, she only saw a piece of paper saying that if you want to save people, come here. She immediately followed the address to that place. She shouted loudly for them to release him, and immediately all the thugs were overpowered. At the same time, the secretary informed Seo that both the judge and the deputy prosecutor were being investigated, and the matter about the new drug was becoming more and more serious. The newly appointed police chief also wants to wipe out the entire corporation. Not long after, Seo went to a run-of-the-mill stationery store to buy a 0.5mm ballpoint pen from the owner, but inside this pen contains a new type of drug. Seo didn't think anything of it and immediately used it. Then he stopped the new director's car. After gently handling the bodyguards, he raised his foot to kick the car around and then kicked the director to death. At the same time, Nam-soon immediately received a text message from Hwa-ja saying that I was dead. In fact, the person who sent the text message was Seo. The purpose was to warn Nam-soon that the next person to die would be her. After Seo attacked the newly appointed director, he immediately fled. According to traces at the crime scene, the police analyzed that the only person with enough strength to subdue all the bodyguards by hand could only be CO. At the same time, Nam-soon's entire family was holding a funeral for Hwa-ja. Gomju did so because she wanted her adopted daughter to feel happiness and die with honor. Actually, she felt extremely regretful in her heart and should have sent Hwa-ja to prison in the first place, because then she won't have to die miserably. After that, Gomju became even more steadfast in her determination to avenge her adopted daughter. Nam-soon received a call from the younger brother of her deceased colleague, from whom she learned that CO knew her identity. On this side, the police were busy all night and still couldn't find any clues. Just when they didn't know how to make lemongrass, Hee-sik had an way was to change Harry Test's VIP list to English, then transferred to CO as a Russian mafia guy. That way the other person will definitely click on it, and thus they can eavesdrop on him. At this time, Nam-soon went into the police station, preparing to declare war on CO. At this time, CO killed Bum to silence his voice. CO was about to run away when he received a phone call from Nam-soon. She asked why he didn't kill her, but killed other people like that, which was very cowardly. CO says things won't go as Nam-soon wants. After hanging up the phone, he actually took the bait and clicked on the eavesdropping link. At this moment, the leader of the mafia called to announce that the organization had abandoned CO. The police have now established a special investigation team to search for the drug-selling network. Next, CO was wanted and banned from leaving the country. In addition to breaking with the organization, he had no hope of escaping, but Hee-sik always feels like CO is sure to win. Hee-sik guessed that he had a way to escape. CO stayed up from night until morning, then told the secretary to bring Dr. Choi. Only then did the police police realized that this person was the trump card that allowed him to escape. Because Dr. Choi created drugs, he also created an antidote, so CO can use this person to negotiate conditions with the organization. At the same time, CO threatened the mafia boss that if he was caught, everything would be over, including the antidote and the Dr. Choi. Therefore, he asked the organization to protect himself in exchange for using the Russian Federal Bureau when necessary. CO reveals that Dr. Choi is at the stationery store. Not long after his subordinates reported that Mr. Gang's location had been traced, CO then came up with an extremely cruel plan. The police tracked down the stationery store. Nam-soon immediately ran there after hearing it. Even the car couldn't catch up. With her magical eyes and super ability to fly from house to house, she arrived before the mafia and took Dr. Choi to the police station. The leader thought that CO was cheating the organization, so he decided not to provide him with any help. So CO immediately guessed that it was Nam-soon's trick. From then on, the love in his heart immediately turned into hatred. He wished he could chop her into 1,000 pieces. Very quickly, when Nam-soon's adoptive mother was walking, she was trapped and someone gave her a gift box. At the same time, Nam-soon received a phone call from CO on the other end of the line, saying he wanted to meet her. Furthermore, said her adoptive mother was in their hands. If she dares to bring the police, her adoptive mother will die. Thinking back to Hwa-ja from before, Nam-soon did not dare to delay for a moment and immediately ran there to meet. As the person he once secretly loved, CO wanted to check on her one last time. After speaking, he threw a box of drugs at her and wanted to see if his drugs were stronger, or if her love for her adoptive mother was stronger. He said that if you don't drink water after an hour of using drugs, the sensor under the water bottle will not activate. The bomb next to the foster mother will not explode either, but if she touched the water bottle just because she was thirsty, the sensor would immediately start, meaning she killed her adoptive mother herself. Nam-soon immediately shouted directly at him. If she could last just 1 hour, she hoped CO would pay for his crimes. Unexpectedly, CO agreed. Nam-soon indeed did as he said, and then she immediately collapsed to the ground in pain. Heartbreak and unwillingness to let go were in CO's eyes. He slowly left the warehouse, taking with him the feelings that were still growing inside him, and told Gyeongju about Nam-soon's current situation. After Gyeongju saw it, she started to panic and went everywhere looking for her daughter. At this time, CO called to tell Gyeongju that if Nam-soon could not drink water, she would definitely die. Gyeongju tried to wake her daughter out with resonance induction by drinking water, but it still had no effect. Grandma, who was traveling abroad, suddenly realized something had happened, so she immediately called Gyeongju. After knowing all that had happened, she immediately explained that resonance induction was only successful when using power. Therefore, the grandmother decided to use her greatest strength. Even if she died, she had to wake up her granddaughter. Very quickly, she arrived in front of the giant statue, using both hands to lift the statue weighing tens of thousands of tons. The family's bloodline was finally resonating. When Grandma seemed exhausted, Nam-soon also woke up from a coma. Strangely, even the drugs did not affect her. After CO saw that Nam-soon had woken up from the surveillance camera, he immediately took the initiative to use drugs. Next, he used one hand to lift Nam-soon up. In fact, at this point, CO could completely strangle Nam-soon, but seeing the painful appearance of the person he loved, he still couldn't take action. While the two were struggling, Hee-sik arrived at the scene. Seeing that CO intentionally threw the steel pipe at Nam-soon to attract his attention, and then took advantage of that moment to run away. While dreaming, Nam-soon told Hee-sik that there was a time bomb on her adoptive mother's body. However, before she finished speaking, she fainted. Very quickly, her adoptive mother's flight 803 was cancelled, and the bomb was successfully defused. On the way to take Nam-soon to the hospital, Hee-sik immediately called Han Min-jum about the whereabouts of the antidote. However, she didn't have it in her hand, but she revealed that the antidote needs to be kept in cold storage. Hearing that Hee-sik immediately reacted. CO is also using drugs, and the antidote storage conditions are very harsh, so the logistics company definitely has a mark of the antidote. On this side, because Grandma was so old and suddenly burst out with the most terrible power, Grandmother was injured and fell into a coma. The women of 3 generations of the strong girl's family were all taken to the hospital, but the grandmother was so seriously injured that even though the doctor tried to resuscitate her, she still showed no signs of waking up. It seemed she was preparing to face death. The best Gyeongju among them was extremely worried about her daughter without paying any attention to her situation. Gyeongju rushed straight into Nam-soon's hospital room. At the same time, Hee-sik brought back the antidote. After Nam-soon took a sip and regained consciousness, the danger was finally considered to be over. Gyeongju saw that her daughter was out of danger and hurried to her mother's room. However, the grandmother was seriously injured and seemed to no longer be breathing. Her face was also pale. Gumju saw that and immediately cried loudly. She regretted not stopping her mother before. Now she wishes that as long as her mother can overcome the danger, she will agree to let her mother marry Uncle Junhee and will also pay for the honeymoon for both of them. Furthermore, she bought them a villa in Monaco. She even ordered stem cell therapy as a birthday gift for her mother. Grandmother heard that and was extremely happy. It turned out that grandmother was so tired that she took a nap, but she had already heard all the promises from Jimju's own mouth. On this side, CO received a phone call from the mafia boss. The other side knew where he was hiding, so he would soon send an assassin to kill him. Early the next morning, after a very friendly negotiation, Dr. Choi revealed where CO was hiding. Namsoon and Hee-sik immediately headed there, but by this time, the assassin had found Sio first. It turns out that Sio is bound by the organization. The organization kidnaps abandoned children for secret training and turns them into cold-blooded henchmen. Among them, Sio and Bing Bing are close friends. The two people never gave up their desire to live, so that night they decided to sneak away the next day. But don't know why Bing Bing broke his promise, and Sio thought he was dead, but unexpectedly, they could still meet again. However, Bing Bing felt ridiculous about Sio's memories. He thought that there should be no ties between the members. It turned out that Bing Bing was taken to Hungary by the boss that night. They constantly tortured and trained Bing Bing. The main purpose was to eliminate Sio. At the same time, only by killing Sio could Bing Bing live. Sio is truly pitiful. Not long after he was born, he was abandoned by his biological parents, and the person he liked was a spy for the police, so he didn't want a third time. But that was still the bond he cared about the most. Sio hoped he only get abandoned twice. When Bing Bing heard these words, childhood memories suddenly appeared in his mind. At that moment, the police siren sounded, but Bing Bing couldn't disobey the organization's orders, so Bing Bing immediately gave the gun to Sio so he could decide the rest of his journey. When the police rushed inside, Sio was the only one left there. He looked at Namsoon and shouted that he swore to be loyal to the organization until death. Then without hesitation, he raised the gun and pulled the trigger. Up to now, the drug case that shocked the entire Gangnam district has been resolved. More than 300 related members have been arrested. That the three-generation woman of the strong girl family had a new goal for their life. The grandmother and Uncle Junhee spoke up to help the elderly who were being scammed. For example, holding a legal team meeting, she knows clearly that the drug case in Gangnam district is only the surface of the problem, so she is determined to completely destroy Sio's organization, no matter how much money it costs. The 4 police officers who handled the case have been promoted because Namsoon actively supported the police in solving cases, so she was appointed to the police position through special recruitment. A few days later, one of the police officers discovered that the owner of the stationery store was Sio's biological father. It turned out that Sio had spent money to help his father open that stationery store, but no one knows why he treated the person who abandoned him so well. Maybe it's because he's so lonely that he needs someone to trust, or maybe it's because of the situation that he wants emotional support. Not long after the parents of the couple, Namsoon and Hee-sik, were negotiating about their marriage, Hee-sik's mother heard that her future daughter-in-law was Mongolian and intended to insult her, but did not expect that Gumju would directly refute it. Gumju shed tears and said that because she couldn't go to college, she had to invite her in-laws to dinner at her shabby 6-star hotel. As compensation, after the two of them get married, she will give her son-in-law a villa in his name. After all, she owns 5 apartments on Busan Avenue and 4 apartments on busy streets. Before she could finish speaking, Hee-sik's mother immediately agreed to this marriage. Hee-sik's father also performed his talents in front of everyone. A month later, with the help of a strange man, Gumju learned about B-song. It's not, and she became the next victim. Spin-off, Gumju went to the younger sister Yoon-hee to ask her nephew Jung-dong to help. It turns out that Jung-dong is the only boy in the family with magical powers due to a Y chromosome mutation. The story has completely ended here. Thank you to all the viewers for supporting and accompanying us. See you again in the next movies.